Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Okay. It is my distinct pleasure to welcome you all to the Center for the Study of the Economies of Africa, CC. CC is a non-profit think tank that is dedicated to conducting rigorous evidence-based research for policy making. Today, we are gathered for this stakeholder engagement and co-creation workshop, which aims to bring together key actors in the education and humanitarian sectors to assess, discuss, and strengthen educational innovations targeting out-of-school children and youth in fragile, conflict, and violence-affected settings, and also assisting teachers address psychosocial support with gender-responsive lens. I welcome you all to this event, and I hope that we all would have an engaging and insightful conversation through these 3 days. Before we begin officially, I'd like for us to go over some housekeeping, one of which will be the restrooms are located just behind the room, to the left and to the right for your convenience. And also would also encourage us to put our phones on silent or vibrations. I know that we're very busy people, and then we'll have people wanting to contact us from time to time. You can take your calls, but your phone should be on silent, so would advise that you just step out quietly if you want to do so. So we'll be starting very quickly, but we'll do some bit of introduction just as an icebreaker. So this is how the introduction will go. You say your name. So you start with an adjective that qualifies you, and then your name, and then your organization, okay? So I'll give an example. My name is Gift, right? So I'll start with an adjective that starts with G. So my name is Gift, the adjective that qualifies me is gifted. So I'll say I am gifted Gift, and I'm a communications officer here at CC. Is that okay? Do we get that? So I'll say that again. You start with an adjective that qualifies you, your name, and the organization that you work with. So I'm gifted Gift. I'm a communications officer here at CC. I'm starting with my boss. Yes, sir.
Adventurous Adidi.
Oh, wow.
Adidi, Center for Study in the Economies of Africa.
Thank you. Please, a round of applause.
I am Godwin.
So what adjective qualifies?
God wins always. Yes, God wins always. And I mean, anything I lay my hands on, I win.
Okay.
Thank you. I am from the Federal Ministry of Education. I represent my director, Colleges of Education for Preaching OOSCY, and my own is I'm deputy director in that college.
So you just pass it to the...
Okay. My name is Faithful Farah Anthony Mamza.
Wow.
Working with Hovibat from Eduguri. Thank you.
Thank you. Please, a round of applause.
Yeah, I'm Marvelous Mohammed.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the ED of Carnival Development Association. Nice to meet you all.
It's a pleasure to have
The more you do, the more you work and you earn for it. I'm Dr. Babagana Modu, Risk Assessment Officer, Nigeria, CC.
Okay, so is your adjective more you do or more or?
Yes, more you do, more you be motivated. That is the aim. The more you, yes.
Okay, so we just want one word.
Okay, the more you do.
One word.
Yes.
Is it more?
Yeah, it's more.
Okay, more Mohammed.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Good morning, I am Capable Clarice.
Come on.
Federal Ministry of Education. I am the essay technical to the Honorable Minister of State for Education, and I'll be representing her here until she comes, if eventually she comes because of some other tight program. And I'm also the Kids Hub focal point in Nigeria. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Capital Carry.
All right, I am Big Benjamin.
Come on, Big Ben.
I am from Anchor and Itanka Progressive Frontiers Foundation. I am the Director of Research. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
My name is Andy. I am from Anchor and it's Anchor Progressive Frontiers Foundation Program Officer.
Nice to have you.
Good morning. I am Sharp Shola.
Sharp Shola, I like that. Please, a round of applause for Sharp Shola.
All right, my name is Solishola Bafoli, and I'm representing primary schools. I'm from Bankers Primary School. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
My name is Brian Madawaki, irreplaceable Ibrahim.
Irreplaceable Ibrahim.
From National Mass Education Commission. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I am Marvelous Mariam.
Okay.
We have Mass Literacy Commission, Monitoring and Evaluation Department, the Director.
Thank you so much.
I'm Abubakar Tijani by name. The adjective that qualifies me is Sadiq, meaning the trustworthy. And the Sadiq is Abubakar also. I'm representing the Master Minister of Education as well as the Russian Government Directive.
Thank you so much.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Fantastic Fatima from National Commission for Colleges of Education. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I am Illuminator Itari. I'm Dr. Itari Turner, Executive Director of Illuminating Minds. And I'm also a lecturer at Base University.
Good to have you.
Good morning, my name is Josh.
Josh.
Yes, Illuminating Minds.
Good morning. I am Lucky Laren and Ahmed, Federal Ministry of Education.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Crystal Christiana from Federal Ministry of Education. Thank you.
Good morning, all. I'm Reliable. My name is Lawal Abduai Ayola, the Principal Education Officer from the National Commission for Colleges of Education.
Thank you so much.
Good morning, everyone. I am Tanisha Toby Ransom from Plan International Nigeria. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, so throughout this 3 days, if you have anything to say, as you raise your hand, you say, I am Marvelous Mohammed, and then you say what you have to say. Okay, thank you all so much for being here today. So to officially kick off, it is my pleasure to welcome the Director of Research, Center for the Study of the Economies of Africa, CC, Dr. Ade, what was his adventurous, yes, Dr. Adventurous Adedeji Adeniro for his opening remarks. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Gifted.
Yes.
Yeah, so thank you very much. Happy to welcome every one of us to this event this morning. It's a privilege and standing on existing protocol. Let me say this, that the normal way
you want to bring when you talked about out of school children, it's to really produce and talk about the numbers, which many of us have heard about. Sometimes some people say 18 million, some people say 10, some people say 6, some people say 13, all sort of numbers. And I think one of the problem with numbers is that sometimes it's also controversial. Because we live in a society whereby research data is still kind of not very well appreciated. And the implication of that is when you really dish out some number, 18 million, some people will say it's not correct. When you say 8 million, some people will say it's a political number. So in a way, we have this debate around numbers. But I think in this meeting, while we have key stakeholders here, it's not just to really discuss these numbers, it's to discuss the context and situation of the people that are being affected. Whether they are 1 million, 3 million, 20 million, I think it's a tragedy and it's a loss on our society if we have huge number of our population that are not given their best to the society. And we live in a world whereby, things are changing very, very well. Things are changing very, very well. Look at, if you look at the news, you look at the European countries, and the tragedy is actually the numbers in terms of they need to increase their fertility rate. They need to increase their population. They want more of these people. In fact, that's actually the narrative behind migration that they do encourage, right? Of course, there is a backlash to that by their population. But the idea is that you find out that when we are complaining about our population, some people actually, they are dying of low population, low fertility. And I think the difference is investment in human capital. If they've invested in their own human capital, they've grown it and it has contributed so much that the scale of growth of the economy, the pace of their population cannot really, they need more hands in order to really further develop their economic growth. You look at China. China is about, I think, 1.3 billion or so. And that's almost all the population of Africa. Africa is about 1.3, 1.4 billion. So you find out that in a country like China, in the last 30 years, they've recorded huge economic growth, whereby they are supporting the world, they become the manufacturing hub of the world. But in Africa, we've actually not achieved this. So the story that we want to be telling, or why we have this program, is for us to really ask the question concretely, what is human capital development? And how can we change the narrative around human capital development in Africa? And so on that note, I welcome you to the Center for Study of Economies of Africa, CSE. We are a think tank, we do research, and one of our core research is human capital development. And part of this, we have two areas. One is education, another one is health, but we are discussing education this morning. And this work has been in its fifth year. So we are in the fifth year of actually looking at education in emergencies in Nigeria. And our focal point has been the issue around out-of-school children, especially in the northern Nigeria. Why? Because I think one of the rallying call around education emergency in Nigeria is the onslaught of Boko Haram crisis and how it stabilizes populations in Bay Area, but also how that problem cascade to the whole kind of Lake Chad region, affecting even countries beyond Nigeria. When we started this work, one of what we were thinking of is how do we really think about education as a way to, how do you bring school to children? How do you ensure that people have access to school? And I think I remember in my education courses, when we talk about access to education, the emphasis is that you have guaranteed access when the door of the school is open to every children that knocks. That's access. That's how access is actually defined, which means if any child comes to school today and they're able to enter and learn, that there is access. It doesn't matter if they didn't knock on the door of the school. If they are there, if they didn't knock, once you provide the school, once they come in, you guarantee access. But increasingly, I think with COVID-19, we begin to learn the fact that it's not just important for us to really ensure that children comes to school. Why can't we take school or education to wherever children are, right? And I think that's the idea of we need to really remodel education system if we are going to reach out the excluded people. Because some of the problems of exclusion is beyond the problem of what education can solve. For example, I mean, we are talking about crisis situation. When this project started, I mean, the statistics that we have from UNICEF shows that about 133 schools, 1,300 schools has been really vandalized by the crisis. I think, I've forgotten the number, it's about 800 teachers has lost their life due to the crisis at that point in time. So we are talking about a situation whereby in many instances there is no school, in many instances there is no teacher. So the question is, the idea of a schooling system will not really work directly. And then we begin to really look at what are the real alternatives that has been explored in the literature. And one of the alternatives that really work or responded to our own unique need is the accelerated education model. The accelerated education model, I mean, it has been pioneered in countries like Afghanistan. It's about really reaching out to people in crisis, but also overage kids. And the idea really is about the fact that if we want to take school to people, we need to really we need to rethink the education system. For example, one of the problems that statistics shows is that when you bring overage kids to school, the probability, when you calculate the probability of dropping out, it's always higher among overage kids than any other kids. And the reason is that these are kids that are almost approaching maybe labor market or even marriage level age. And so the level of concentration, for example, if someone at the age of 13 years has never been to school in their life, and they are to start primary school, we are expecting them to spend 6 years. So by the time they end that 6 years, that they're already 19 years. And if they should go to secondary school, I mean, in our education system, what really you need to have is basic education, which is 9 years. By the time they will have that 9 years, they will be 21 years. The probability, I mean, the pressure, maybe if they have a wife or if they are wife, the pressure on them, on their time, it's so enormous that the very conventional school system might not work. And so we embark on that research to really understand the idea of how does accelerated education system works in Nigeria. And we're happy that the partners that have been working with us over the years are also in the room in Borno State, OFIPAD and Kale Borno. These are institutions, local institutions that spearheaded some of this program in Borno, Adamawa, and Yobe states. So we learned a lot of lessons in the first stage. And some of the lessons we learned is the fact that when you include community in the process of education, the likelihood of success is always higher. I will give an example. When we started this process, some of the people that we really brought in as partners were international NGOs. When Donald Trump actually cut his funding, one of them closes down. But even before Donald Trump's disaster, you know, some of them will reach out to them and they say they've moved on to another project, right? Or that what is their priority is now something else. But when you reach out to the local institutions, they are always there. They retain the institutional memory of programs and they have to sustain many of those things that you can think of scaling and sustaining the projects. But also, I mean, we need to really thank Dr. Ujam. Dr. Ujam, thank you so much for joining us this morning. She has been the leader of the program, KICS program in Nigeria. So let me explain. I think she will also explain a little bit about KICS. So KICS is more like innovation exchange. It's an high-grassroots program. And it's not just in Nigeria, it's across the world, let me say. We are part of what our program is part of the regional program. So as we are doing this in Nigeria, there are also partners that are doing this in Ghana. There's another partner also doing this in Burkina Faso. In the last session, we also extend this to Sierra Leone. So what the KICS is all about is, have we identified programs that really works, whether in education, emergencies, or for girls-centered education platform? Have we really discovered things that work? If we have discovered things that work, what can we learn from it? So in that process, we collected a lot of data on costing, on impact, and one of the revealing moments is that children that were transited from AEP programs to the normal school system, and they were able to recover. In terms of performance, they were outpowering their colleagues in the school system. They were able to read. In fact, we found some very important non-cognitive skills development among kids that have participated in AEP. So for example, when we talk about socio-emotional skills, ability to really have, to be more resilient, they have this kind of skills. And that really tells us the fact that we are losing a lot if we are not actually impacting this generation, this out-of-school children with important skills that they need to grow. And that's actually the motivation for the second stage of this project, which we are going to be speaking to us today. The idea is to further really work with innovators from not just from government, from private sector, in order to really understand quite clearly. Now that we know that there is what works, the next stage is how do we make sure that we sustain and we scale such a thing. And I think it's about really reflection on programmatical challenges. That's part of the first thing we are going to be doing on this program. We are going to look at some of the programs. The AEP, it has been implemented, it has been in Nigeria for about 7 years, and we have studied for the last 5 years or so. Our plan is to go further to see what are the challenges that we continue to have and how do we strengthen it. That's so understanding what works and understanding how to really sustain and scale what works. That's actually first part of our interest in this project. The second thing that we are interested in is partnership, which means bringing together and ensuring that policymakers, researchers, practitioners, development partners, that we can really think very well. Because, like I said, this is actually really rethinking education system, not just really asking people to come to school, but also taking education to children wherever they are. If we are going to make this to be successful, it has to be sustained. Our conventional education model, it's more than 100 years old, right? And it has been sustained by partnership from education, from government, from administrators, from every one of us in the room. We've always, in the past years, been contributing to education in whatever ways. If we are going to make this other model of education work, that partnership needs to be built. And I'm happy that people that would really support this process are in this room, and that the conversation that will ensure that process is not starting in this room, will continue in this room, and will live beyond this room. So on that note, I'm really happy to really welcome every one of us to this session. We look forward to your contribution. Like I said, we want to really hear from you the direction that you think, how do we ensure sustainability and how do we ensure scalability of this important process? But also, what are the other elements that we need to have? In our own thinking, we have really thought clearly that accelerated education model, it's quite impactful, but it needs to be complemented with a lot of other things. For example, we emphasize the socio-emotional learning as part of the learning process that needs to be integrated. Because when we talk about people that have actually experienced shocks, recovery and resilient education should be part of the system that is being added to them. And so that's part of what we are thinking about in terms of socio-emotional learning process. We also need to focus on vulnerable groups, especially girls, child, that have been affected and that have also suffered from these shocks. We need to really integrate them into the system. So on that note, we are happy that the Lumina is also, team are also here with us. We will be hearing from the Lumina team. They will speak to us about some of the programs around gender that the Ministry of Education is leading. I don't know, maybe we'll also hear from the ministry because I wasn't around, but I learned that the ministry launched two very important documents on girls' child education last week. And I think it should be interesting to also use that as a focal point to really learn more about the state of education, especially girls' education in Nigeria, and how this program also really linked to that. Overall, I want to thank you for showing up despite the early morning rain. It's not easy, but we really thank you for showing up. So, on that note, I will invite my colleague gifted gifts back to the microphone. So, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Adventurous Adedeji, for taking us through an adventure into how these 3 days is going to be, and I'm sure we're all ready to go on that adventure together. Okay, so as we move forward in our program, I would like to take a moment to hear some goodwill messages from some of our stakeholders here present today. So firstly, we'll have the Special Advisor on Education to His Excellency, the Executive Governor of Borno State. Please put your hands together as we welcome him for his goodwill message in a minute.
The organizers of this event, the MC, good morning all. First and foremost, I want to appreciate the effort of the organizers of this event for sparing their precious time to see how we can be able to propose solution to the problem within our nation. And whenever I heard of these emergencies and fragile conflict and violence, the most affected states, I think, in this country is the Bay State, Borno, Adamawa, and Yobe. And the most affected amongst the three is Borno State. We have seen the kind of consequences that we went through, and we have seen how this thing has led to the resurgence of out-of-school children in our states. But Alhamdulillah, along the line, in an effort to address this problem, the executive governor of the state has done all that is humanly possible, and with the help of the national and international donor agencies, who are able to at least beat almost 60% of the problem for now. But one very good thing I wanted to draw the attention of this organizing committee is I heard Dr. Adedeji saying about they want to get at least stakeholders engagement so that we can provide them with information or ideas on how to strengthen their work in coming up with a policy. My own observation here is that whenever we are addressing this issue of out-of-school children, please we shouldn't forget the issue of maybe integrating the issue of this skill acquisition policy as well, because the problem that we went through, the essence of this insurgency as a whole is not due to illiteracy, but mostly due to idleness. So there is no way we can put an end to this problem that we are undergoing without unnecessarily integrating skill acquisition into our own policy. And I also stand to commend the effort of amiable governance in that direction, because right now the non-formal education that we have been rendering in our state also goes along hand in hand with the skill acquisition program. So I wish God will give you the strength to do more, and I wish the participants a very successful workshop. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Next, we'll be having the representative of the Minister of State. Yes. All right, so next we'll have Dr. Mohammed from Kabuja for his goodwill message. A round of applause for him, please. Marvelous Mohammed. Yes.
I welcome you all to this program, and it is my belief that after this workshop, all the stakeholders will come to a term on how to improve research on this education innovation in our locality. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Next, we have Dr. Ransom from Hope Pad. Dr. Ransom from Hope Pad. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, all. I'm delighted to be invited to be part of this program. I give my thanks to CC, the organizing team, for a good work they're doing. I'd like to thank you for the invitation to take us to Ghana for the workshop we had, which was very powerful. We are delighted to be part of this research and to provide the necessary input. But I'd like us to, we have worked on out-of-school children AEP for many years. And part of our findings are the fact that inclusivity is one of the areas we have to look into. The disabled, how we can get them in. In addition to that, we also look at the issue of retention in school. Because after the 2-3 years of schooling and the mainstreaming, the enrollment, what happens? I discovered that most of the funding agencies don't think about retention. When even though not much is paid, but how are they going to be retained? The other issue we look at is the issue of sustenance or empowerment of the parents of these children. Because these parents ask their children to hawk. The issue of early child marriage is also there. So they need to empower the parents of these out-of-school children is also something that we have to look into. Because it will support, for them to support these children in school. Because not just the enrollment, but after enrollment, talk about sustenance, and then presently, you discover the issue of farming. This is a farming season. And these children, for the projects we run, we have less than 50% of these children in school. Because the parents are thinking of their economic well-being, the children have to be taken to the farms to work. And so you see the daily turnout of these children is quite good. So these are things we have to think the research should also venture into. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Next, we'll have the representative from UBEC in person of Adamu Kurama.
Good morning. Greetings from the Executive Secretary, Universal Basic Education Commission, Aisha Garba. She wanted to be here, but because of the exigencies of her office, she sent us to come and represent the commission. Education, UBEC is an intervention agency established by the federal government to provide access and equity to all Nigerian children. Although the primary responsibility of providing basic education lies with the states and local government, but the federal government felt that it is her duty to support the states and local government to ensure quality basic education. In the commission, we have rolled out several interventions aimed at addressing out of school children, from the second chance schools that we provide for girls, the Quranic integrated Sangaya system, where we provide intervention for infrastructure and instructional materials to elementary schools. We also have open schooling, where centers were open for children that cannot access school, but we provided conducive atmosphere where they would come and learn. We are looking forward for a robust collaboration with this center to ensure that all our programs and activities that we do that are geared toward addressing out-of-school children, as well as education in emergency situation, aligned with our goals and objectives. Currently, the Executive Secretary is trying to restructure the services of the Commission so that it will align with the present emergencies in education. To that, she has already established a desk for public, private, and community engagement to ensure that communities as well as stakeholders come together to ensure that they have poor resources to address all the challenges that are bedeviling the education sector, especially at the basic education level. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Next, we'll be having the representative from AMCA and Itanka Progressive Frontiers Foundation, Mr. Adamu Benjamin, for his good wishes.
Good morning, all. We are Africa. We are happy to be invited to be part of this program today. Our focus as a civil society organization is to help in tackling one of the biggest troubles in Nigeria, which is the extent of corruption. However, issues of out of school causes a lot of problem. We believe that such brings about dependency, and higher dependency on individuals brings about, increases the tendency to corruption. when you have more people to cater for, you get more tempted to dip your hands where you're not supposed to dip into. And that is why we found this program to be of great importance, to partner such that when people are educated, when people acquire skill, when people can cater for themselves, we will have less dependency in the society. And of course, this devil will be put down. So we are glad to be here. From my own background, I am from a fragile community. My community has not been ravaged by conflict, as it is the experience in Borno and other parts of the country. But there is the issue of lack of awareness, lack of awareness of rights. And of course, this is making young people or even elderly people to take advantage of young girls in our villages who are supposed to be in school. You find a 9-year-old girl being impregnated. You have a 10-year girl being impregnated. And this is a recurring challenge in our communities. And of course, such an accelerated program will also be good so that we don't lose them completely. If 9 years, 10 years, 15 years, and even to 20 years are still within the level that we can rescue to make productive. Because the more they are productive, the better will be for our society. So we will do everything within our purview to continue to partner with CC and other stakeholders to see that this goal is achieved, for it has a relationship with our goals and objectives as an organization. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Going forward, we have a representative from NCCE, Abdul Wahid Ayola Lawal, for their goodwill message from NCCE.
Hello. Good morning, all. Lawal Abdul Wahid Ayola from the National Commission for Policies of Education. I bring a warm greeting from the Executive Secretary of the National Commission for Policies of Education, Professor Paulino Chijoke. He would have liked to be here, but he has a meeting with the minister this morning. This conference is timely because we are currently reviewing our curriculum, which is which comes every 5 years. And presently, I assure you that we will report every deliberation here accordingly and report back to the Commission so that it will enhance our curriculum. And secondly, I would like to tell you that the curriculum we are currently reviewing is going to be the best in the Sub-Africa region, because we have collaborations with UNESCO, UNICEF, and the likes. So we also want to collaborate with a serious agency like CRDC, so that at least we can enhance our curriculum, which will be out in later than September. So my executive secretary is delighted to send the two of us here so that we can report back accordingly and everything is going to be well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we have Toby Ransom from Plan International for their goodwill message. Thank you.
Good morning. Oh, good morning, everyone. I'm speaking with my teacher's voice. I bring goodwill message and kind regards from our country director, Dr. Charles OOSCY of Plan International Nigeria. And we want to commend CC and partners for convening this important stakeholder engagement. For Plan, we are an organization that is committed to promoting children's rights and equality for girls. And so we recognize the urgent need to strengthen access to inclusive quality education in emergency and fragile contexts. Our work particularly focuses on addressing the unique barriers that girls face in such contexts, and we have been implementing in the Bay Areas and recently in Northwest Nigeria as well, implementing the Accelerated Basic Education Program that was developed by NERDC. So we believe that today's dialogue provides a vital opportunity to strengthen collaboration, share innovations, and chart actionable pathways to reach out to school children, especially girls, with transformative education solutions. We look forward to the outcome of today's conversation, and we also reaffirm our commitment to advancing education for all, leaving no child behind. I also make the commitment to take up any action points and pass it on to management for implementation. Thank you once again.
Thank you very much, Plan International. Finally, we have Mrs. M.U. Khalid from NMEC.
Good morning, everyone. As you are aware, the National Commission for Mass Literacy, Adult and Non-Formal Education has the mandate of eradication of illiteracy in Nigeria. So anything to do with access is within the Commission's mandate. Currently, we have just had a new executive secretary who has been handed over to last week and is not yet reported in the office. So I'm here as the most senior director of the Commission to represent the Commission on this event. First of all, I would like to commend the organizers for thinking the same way as the Commission, because the Commission has had several programs on access and innovation. We have programs like the LBR, which is literacy by radio, and which is within what I've had the executive of this CC just said, to bring up new initiatives to be able to make children and adults and youth have access. And ours extend to the adults too. We deal with both youth and adults at the National Commission for Mass Literacy, Adult and Non-Formal Education. So we have had innovative projects on this LBR in all the 36 states and FCT. We have been doing this since 5 years back, and last year we committed ourselves to 7 states where we have issues of emergencies, and Borno State is one of them. The National Commission has an agency in Borno State, and we have a state office in Yobe, which is closer, and we have been working towards seeing that we include all that needs emergency attention on literacy issues. We are also on to skill acquisitions and other programs to be able to settle the parents who have been dismantled from their base, like the IDP camps. We have programs for the IDPs for both youth and adults. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for all those inspiring goodwill messages. I'm sure that now we all agree that we're in the right room, because all our our thoughts and everything, aligned with, the theme of this event. So now it's my pleasure to introduce our first speaker for her presentation. She's Dr. Oluwatosin Edafe, a research fellow here at the Center for the Study of the Economies of Africa, and she'll be taking us through the project's overview and objectives, as well as challenges in the education sector, out-of-school children, and learning crisis. Ladies and gentlemen, please let us make welcome Dr. Edafe for her presentation. Thank you very much.
Good morning, everyone. I'm happy to see your beautiful and handsome faces. So, I'll be running us through the project shortly. This project is on advancing education solutions, research for scaling education innovations in emergencies and fragile, conflict and violence affected areas of Burkina Faso, Ghana, and Nigeria. The project is funded by GPE KICS and IDRC Canada, and the countries of focus are Burkina Faso, Ghana, and Nigeria. The project is being implemented by a research consortium. In the consortium, we have Stakeholders, we have Associates for Change, and we have Center for the Study of the Economies of Africa. And Stakeholders will be conducting the study on Burkina Faso, while Associates for Change does that for Ghana, and Center for the Study of the Economies of Africa will be conducting for Nigeria. So it's a project in 3 countries, Burkina Faso, Ghana, and Nigeria. And our target is fragile, conflict, and violence affected areas. And the goal of this project is to scale proven education innovations, whether accelerated education program, social and emotional learning, inclusive models, grounded in evidence, gender equality, and inclusion. So, education is a fundamental right and a key lever for social and economic development. However, in West Africa, millions of children are out of school as a result of armed conflict, persistent insecurity, recurrent humanitarian crises that affected the region. These crises have devastating consequences on the education system, worsening inequality and compromising the future of the young generation. These crises have led to school closures, and in addition to school closures, instability affects the children. It causes psychological trauma among these children, limiting their learning opportunities and reducing their prospects for social and emotional economic integration. According to UNICEF, for Nigeria, more than 19.7 million children are out of school, highlighting a critical education crisis. And Nigeria has witnessed mass displacement of children due to insurgencies, especially in the northern Nigeria. Many schools are targeted by attacks, further discouraging attendance and engagement in learning. And the consequences of these disruptions are profound, not just affecting access to education, but also the quality of learning and psychosocial well-being of these children. Many of the children now face the problem of reintegrating into formal education, leading to high dropout rates and the like. Also, looking at the girl child, many of them face increased risks of early marriages, gender-based violence as a result of socio-cultural barriers. Also, we've experienced limited infrastructure and teacher capacity. Some of the teachers have to flee this community in the fragile conflict and violent zones. Now, let's look at the impact of conflict on education infrastructure. For example, in Borno and surrounding northern Delta states, conflict has disrupted education for more than 2.8 million children, with over 800 schools closed and 497 classrooms destroyed, with another 1,392 damaged but repairable. And in the same northern Nigeria, nearly half of primary-age children are not in school. Attendance rates for girls are especially low in the northeast. For example, we have 47.7%, and in northwest we have 47.3%, reflecting deep gender gaps in education. Over 2,295 teachers killed and about 19,000 displaced across northeast region, and less than half of these schools have minimally qualified teachers. Now, let's look at what data says. This is the percentage of out-of-school children in Nigeria across geopolitical zones. And we can see that the northern geopolitical zone have a higher proportion of out-of-school children than the southern geopolitical zone. This could be as a result of high rates of poverty, terrorist attack, insurgency, and so on. Also, looking at the percentage of out-of-school children in Nigeria by wealth index quintile, the poorest wealth index quintile has the highest prevalence of out-of-school children. Many families who belong in this category struggle to meet basic needs of food, shelter, even healthcare, making school attendance a lower priority for them. So, what is this project about? The project is about tackling education gaps in crisis areas, such that it aims to improve access, retention, and learning for out-of-school children and youth in fragile, conflict-affected parts of Nigeria, especially the Northeast, and it focuses on helping girls and vulnerable groups return to safe, inclusive, and supportive learning environments. We are also testing and scaling innovations like the Accelerated Education Program, the Girls Focus Program, Socio-Emotional Learning, and the Radio-Based Education. And the goal is to generate evidence that guides governments and partners to adopt cost-effective gender-responsive strategies. And we also aim to co-create solutions that can strengthen Nigeria's education system in crisis-affected regions. Now, looking at all the situations that have been explained, this project aims to ensure that the most marginalized children have access to education in safety and in dignity. And this justifies our research project on scaling proven models. What are those models that have been put in place to ensure that children go back to school, children are retained, and children complete their education and transition for further livelihood? So some of the projects or programs we'll be looking at are Accelerated Education Program. Accelerated Education Program is a program that provides learning opportunity for children that have missed school as a result of conflict, displacement, and other emergencies, and it offers a condensed curriculum so that these children can catch up with their peers and be integrated into the formal education. We also have the Social and Emotional Learning program that can be integrated into this program. Many of these children have experienced trauma. Imagine a child who witnessed a parent's death during Boko Haram insurgency. Imagine a girl child who was forced into early marriage because the father lost his only source of livelihood. So these children, the program helps develop their skills in such that their emotional skills, they become resilient, they are able to learn how to cope with anxiety. So it's like a learning space, it's a safe learning space for these children where they can open up, speak about their experiences. Some of these students are really aggressive. They even avoid large crowds. They withdraw from the society. So this will help. Then we have the Girls Focused Program. It's like a mentorship program, an empowerment program that helps increase retention. While AEP increases access, Girls Focused Program helps increase retention of the girl child. Then we have inclusive education, such as this enables every child, irrespective of the background, irrespective of the displacement or disability, should have access to education. They should not just be brought back to school, but be retained. They should stay in school. And at the end of the day, all of this will lead to informative impact. Now, we looked at some of the impacts of some of these education innovations. For example, under the AEP, we had the education crisis response between 2014 and 2017 that helped restore access to education for out-of-school children. Here, 1,456 non-formal learning centers were established, and about over 80,000 schools were enrolled. And at the end of the day, at the end of the project, about 30,154 students transitioned to formal education. And this project was conducted in 5 states: Adamawa, Bauchi, and Gombe, and it was later scaled to Borno and Yobe. And OVPAD was part of this project. We also have the DFIDEINFLS that was between 2017 and 2020. And this was done in Borno and Yobe states for age 9 to 14-year-old children. Kabuda was part of this project. It helped provide education to out-of-school children in conflict-affected areas and also strengthened community-based non-formal learning centers. Over 400 learning centers were established, and it reached 34,000 children across Borno and Yobe states. Same thing with this project addressing education in northeast Nigeria. It also addressed educational disruption caused by conflict. Over 200,000 students were enrolled, and majority of them also transitioned to formal education. We have Opportunity to Learn program. This is ongoing, and International Rescue Committee and Plan International are implementers of this project. It's being done in 12 local government areas in Borno and Yobe. It also provides foundational literacy, numeracy, and socio-emotional skills to out-of-school children. It has helped improve access to education for vulnerable children and youth. So AEP beneficiaries have a 90 to 95% transition rate back to formal education in primary and junior high school, improved foundation literacy and numeracy rates for out-of-school children. And the Accelerated Basic Education Program was officially launched in Nigeria in 2022, and it has been piloted in states like Borno, Yobe, Adamawa with good results. However, there is the need to scale up ABEC. We have representatives from the Federal Ministry of Education here that will be speaking to us shortly. So we also have the girls focused programs like the Girls for Girls, G4G, and Socio-Emotional Learning that has impacted over 135,000 girls have benefited from this program. And it has improved access, retention, and transition. And we have the Agile program from between 2020 to 2025, which has also increased enrollment and retention of adolescent girls in secondary school. Who are our key innovators? Our key innovators, we have the Hope Vision for Peace and Community Development of Nigeria, OVPAD. We have the Executive Director and the Senior Programs Manager here with us. And we also have Kabuda, Kanembori Human Development Association. We also have the Executive Director and the Senior Programs Manager here with us. What's the objective of our project? One, to generate evidence on adapting and scaling effective gender inclusion sensitive educational innovations to enhance access and retention of out-of-school children in emergency and fragile conflict violent clusters in Burkina Faso, Ghana, and Nigeria. So we are gathering solid evidence through research and data on how to successfully adapt and scale all of these education innovations I previously mentioned, and all the existing ones, the ones we are not even aware of. And these programs must be effective, that is, they must improve learning and schooling outcome, and they must be gender equity inclusion sensitive, that is, they must pay attention to the needs of girls, pay attention to the needs of children with disabilities, and pay attention to the needs of other marginalized groups. But also, the project will also mobilize knowledge to enhance policy and practice in selected fragile conflicts, violent affected areas with a focus on gender equity and inclusion, highlighting innovative models that are proven or promise to improve access and retention, and gender equity, inclusion, responsiveness in Burkina Faso, Ghana, and Nigeria. How do we intend to mobilize knowledge? Through a series of workshops, training sections, and so on. And we also will be having a series of workshops with our stakeholders. In the forthcoming days, we'll have training sections also on capacity building, and we'll also strengthen the capacities of key stakeholders, including government and civil society organizations, to effectively utilize evidence from tested educational innovations effectively. We have several research questions that we would like to go into. What are expected outcomes? One, to increase policy uptake of scalable education innovations, also to strengthen government and civil society capacity in implementing education programs, and to improve education access and retention for out-of-school children, so that at the end of the project, every child has the right to education in safety and dignity. Methodological approach. So the research employs a sequential mixed methods approach to provide a comprehensive understanding of how education innovations can be scaled in FCD areas and to be carried out over 2 years. And this approach integrates both qualitative and quantitative methodologies. In the first phase, a situational analysis will be conducted to map out the education landscape in selected study areas. We will conduct a next review. Secondly, data will be gathered on number of out-of-school children, number of school closures, existing education innovations in Borno. And the second phase will focus on quantitative data collection through structured surveillance administered to students, teachers, parents, and community leaders. Here we will be collecting, administering data on some key indicators such as retention rates, access rates, learning outcomes, and the likes. And in the third phase, we'll employ qualitative methods, including focus group discussion on behavioral flow observations, and the final phase of the research will focus on data analysis, synthesis, and dissemination of findings. Where are our areas of intervention? In Nigeria, the study will be conducted in Borno State, and to cover the northern, middle, and southern zones, each representing a different level of fragile conflict and violent impact. In the northern zone is classified as high risk. Here we have the issue of Boko Haram insurgencies. Many schools here are closed, many schools are destroyed, and most of the students here do not have access to formal education. And in the middle zone, we have Jerry, Kontuga, and NFC, classified as medium risk. Then we have the southern zone, Shani and Pew local governments, that are classified as low risk. So we'll be working across all of these zones in Borno State. Thank you.
Okay. So I think my colleague has done the work of really giving us the overview of what the 2 years will look like and how we plan to really implement the project. What I will just speak about it's partnership that we think will sustain this. And when we talk about scaling, I think it's one of the big problems that education researchers are trying to understand, right? There is an analysis that we once did to look at the fact we were looking at two things. When do we started the issue of getting interest in learning crisis? And if you look at data, it shows that it was around year 2000 that more and more research was produced on learning crisis globally. It actually jumped about more than 50% research on learning crisis within like 1 or 2 years. So, and we know what really caused that. That's actually because of MDGs. When MDG started, there's a lot of data looking at not just assets, but also learning crisis. And so that's all what we later known as SDGs, which focused on inclusive and quality education. But as research actually increased, we've really found out that there's a lot of things that works. If you distribute some textbooks, it works sometimes. If you buy vaccination, it works. There are many things that work. The only problem is most of the things that works. For example, there was a case of textbook distribution in Kenya. Okay, let me use the case of one laptop per child in Kenya. They decided to buy one laptop per child in Kenya, and it's also the same thing that was done in Peru. And I think it's so obvious why it will work. If everybody have access, I mean, we've been talking about textbook is good, personalized learning is good. If you give this one laptop to each child, it should be able to work. When they did it at a very national scale to millions of kids with millions of dollars in expenditure, it didn't work. So it then becomes the problem of scaling. That it works at the very, maybe you do it for 2 schools or 3 schools. When you are doing it for 10,000 schools, right, will it still work? So the problem of scaling becomes a very huge issue in the education literature. And one of the key things that we've learned so far in really ensuring scaling is building culture. If you have an organization of 3, 4, 5, 10 people, of course you can be a good and smart manager, right? That really coerces people, whether by threats or by anything, to make sure that they work and do their work. If you have an organization of 10,000 people, you can't do it. So what do you promote? Culture. A kind of a culture of hard work, a culture of synergies. So the same lessons is actually what we really discover in scaling. That if we are going to really scale things, you need to really build a kind of ecosystem. And that system bringing in everybody, all the core partners together to make sure that we work towards common goals. If we have 10 institutions, everybody has their own objectives, and everybody's objective is not aligned. Irrespective of how big we are, we can actually be working at cross purposes. If we really work together, we can actually achieve a clear, and that's actually the purpose of this, what we are talking about, strategic partnership and scaling. Our idea is that for us to make scaling work, we need partnership. And I think it's not just me that will say this. This is, I think this is widely known. So how do we want to ensure scaling in this project? Like I said, this is actually a regional project, which means we are part of a regional consortium working in West Africa region. So we have a regional lead, which is Associate for Change, based in Ghana. We also have in-country partners, CC, Nigeria, Salvador in Burkina Faso, But we also have research partners that we're also working with at the regional level. So 2 regional institutions we're working with University of Cambridge, Professor Ricardo there, and Carleton University, Canada. I think John is a lab person there. So those are people that actually we work with in terms of our output and delivery, such that when we write or when we do, we have other people really that provide input. We also have collaboration with governments, NGOs in the region. I'll speak more to this. The focus is to ensure collaborative learning, knowledge co-creation, and scaling impact. So the idea is we are not just scaling at the national level. Now we are talking about scaling at the very regional level. We want to see, for example, I think a lot of people in Ghana and Burkina Faso were surprised that Nigeria has a curriculum, APEP curriculum, which we've created. And most of them actually, they keep asking, how can we get access to this curriculum? Because they don't have. So those are kind of knowledge exchange that we expect to take place. Whereas in Ghana, they have an institution called Complementary Education Secretariats. It's their own secretariats, whereby the complementary education is the same thing as accelerated education. So in Ghana, when you hear complementary education, it means accelerated education. So in a way, we are learning. When they are learning from us on the curriculum development, we are learning from them that of institutional setup that helps them implement it and also foster how they are scaling it. So it's a kind of collaborative process. But also at our own level, we really want to emphasize that the leadership of Federal Ministry of Education is critical and very important. In fact, the IDLC, they established KICS projects. When they established, there's actually an institutional person domiciled within the Federal Ministry of Education that coordinates all activities of KICS in Nigeria. And also, she supports whatever we are doing at the regional partnership stages. And that's Dr. Oja. So that is very important, the government ownership, because when NGOs like ourselves do things, we do projects, when government is doing anything, they are already scaling. I mean, when you are doing something for 100 schools, 200 schools, at any point the government is doing it for 10,000 of schools. So they are already operating things at scale. So there is a lot we can learn from them. NERDC, I think they are major partners that we are working with. We met with the executive director last week, and we're happy that the representative is here this morning and we will speak more. The Borno State government, they've been quite supportive, and their support, I think, is still going to be sustained throughout this project. Also, UBEC has been a core partners in this. Again, the idea of this partnership is to ensure that we integrate ourselves into the policy process, into the co-creation of what we call education, the learning group. And we will talk more about the learning group soon. But the idea is the fact that when we talked about partnership, one of the things that you learn when you work in this kind of organization is the fact that every organization has its own purpose. If you don't have a kind of very strategic process to bring people together, you can have this meeting that everybody will be happy, and at the end of the day, once the meeting blocks out, everybody just blocks out. Maybe you have another one next year, that's when everybody starts thinking about it again. So you don't want that process. You want a kind of structure whereby we keep ourselves abreast of the situation, we continue to think about and really reflect, such that it's not just once in a blue moon that we reflect on it, but it's a continuous activity. So that's the essence of what we want to achieve in this partnership. I don't know, maybe you can get me without this. Okay, so these are the kind of partnership we okay, so in terms of also we're thinking of partnership at the multilateral international level. So at the regional level, we have already really had partnership with UNICEF, with IDLC, which are actually the founder, GPE, the founder, AEWG, there's Accelerated Education Working Groups. They are actually core partners in the process, and they have actually also been supportive of all what we do. So why we are saying this is that all of us in this room are part of this partnership too, right? But we are just putting it layer by layer. What about, so how do we really partners? I mean, what are the modalities for our partnership? It's various forms that people actually, that we work with everyone in this room. Some, it's actually MOU with key institutions and stakeholders, whereby the MOU might be on, we do working together on research, it could be on data collection, it could be on training. So there are a lot of institutions that actually, because we also want to learn from one another. So there could be trainings and all of the sort of engagement that takes place. Then the second mechanism we really, in terms of really building that partnership, is establishing of policy learning working groups. Again, it's not kind of a bothersome stuff. It's just a group that think alike comes together to really reflect on what the progress looks like. And I think there's a lot of major developments in this field really taking place. So our idea is to really have really make sure that we don't wait too long for us to have that discussion. We actually have that timely discussion when appropriate. Also, we're thinking of joint planning and review workshops. Workshops like this is one of it. But we hope to actually have a lot of this. For those of us that want to join us for the rest of the week, like my colleague said, this is one day, but there's actually more program tomorrow and on Wednesday. And it's just a co-creation kind of workshops whereby we talked about, I mean, these are just kind of bird's-eye view of what we're going to be doing. But at that, workshops, we really spin it out. We look at things more holistically, and we jointly determine the directions of things. So those are kind of things that will take place in the workshop. Another mechanism for partnership is dissemination events, right? Once we go to the field, there will be a medium for us to really pass this information. It could be as simple as sending you emails. It could be as much more like inviting you again, but there will be many mechanisms that we are really thinking of ensuring that we work together to make sure that things continue to work. There will be kind of webinars too. We think there will be webinars whereby we can really disseminate. We want to learn from PLAN, what PLAN is doing. We want to learn from Ministry of Education. We want to learn from Borno State government. I mean, Dr. Ibrahim, we were talking about what the government has done. And I think people in this room will be interested in that. So those kind of engagement, we want to encourage all of that. So that's actually what we envisage in these 2 years, partnership, to ensure that we're just not going to implement another project, but we see that project is, like we say, sustainable and scalable. So thank you so much.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Deji and Dr. Etafe. Okay, so now, ladies and gentlemen, it is a great honor to welcome the Honorable Minister of State for the Federal Ministry of Education, Professor Suaibu Ahmad, who is ably represented by Dr. Clarice Ujam. Dr. Clarice is the Deputy Director of Federal Ministry of Education and the key focal person, and she will be delivering the minister's speech on her behalf. Ladies and gentlemen, please, how would you clap for the minister? She's representing the minister, so give her the minister's love. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Ade and team, I want to especially recognize my director, the Director of Educational Support Services, who is here. You are welcome and highly recognized. The representative of the Director, Colleges of Education, welcome. And all of my colleagues that are here, those that are also from the education family, the parastatals under education, so that I don't miss any. I recognize every one of you and all our partners in the private sector and the NGOs, CSOs, and the media, everyone here present, you are welcome. I am representing the Honorable Minister of State for Education, Professor Sueba Said Ahmed, who actually desired to be here. When the team came to visit her, she gave her promise. And then later she realized that there were other already scheduled programs that took her, that might not giving her the opportunity to be here. So she asked me to represent her and to bring her good wishes to this very, very important gathering. And she said that probably any of the free time within the day or within the week, she will come to associate with you for you to know that she is fully in support of what you're doing. So congratulations to the CC team. And I just put a smile because you informed that you have been working in education, but the Federal Ministry of Education never realized or associated, or you did not identify with Federal Ministry of Education until we started complaining internationally. So thank God that the international complaint brought about our cooperation and collaboration with you. So I bring the goodwill message and the speech of the Honorable Minister to every one of us. The Federal Ministry of Education, as we all know, is into policy formulation and ensuring the implementation of this policy documents. And we encourage both private and public engagements and collaboration with everybody. It is important to mention to you all that the ministry is focused on what we call the NESRI. It is NESRI, Nigerian Education Sector Initiative. Nigerian Education Sector Initiative. So there we have 6 focal areas. We are highly interested in TVET, Technical Vocational Education and Training. This present administration is also prioritizing STEM. STEM here is STEMM, meaning science, technology, engineering, mathematics, and medical sciences. It will please you to know that our minister is a medical doctor, and he's very, very passionate about encouraging medical sciences. So we have M added to the normal STEM that you know. The ministry is also very, very passionate about promoting girl-child education. And I was very happy during the presentations, we're also emphasizing girl-child education. We are very passionate about making sure that we encourage the girls to go to school. We all know that it is said that when you train a girl child, you train a nation. But when you train a male child, what do you do? I leave that for you to answer. But on the one acclaimed one is that when you train a girl child, you train a nation because she carries it on. So we are ensuring that we encourage the girl child to go to school. And to do that, the minister, especially the Minister of State for Education, is very, very passionate about this girl child. It's her pet project to ensure that girls go to school. I will talk about that briefly, but before then I also want to inform you that the ministry is also prioritizing reducing the number of out-of-school children. Among the 6 priorities areas, out-of-school children is very key. Every management or administration that comes to education or Ministry of Education or the education family is always emphasizing on the reduction of out-of-school children. And when somebody was doing a presentation, I said according to UNICEF that we have 19.7 million out-of-school children. 19.7 million out-of-school children. UNESCO will come with their own. World Bank will come with their own. But you Nigerians, what is your own? That is why the ministry is also focused on data and digitization. Last week, we got a report from National Commission for Emergencies and Out-of-School Children that they have brought back 25,000 children. But UNICEF will still come and say they have 19.7. Please, if you minus 25,000, just by National Commission for Emergencies, not to talk of what other agencies are doing, like National Commission for Nomadic Education, like what MBIAS is doing, like what NMEC is doing, like what the ministry itself is doing, not to talk about what the NGOs and the CEOs and all of you here are doing to make sure that you bring in, will reduce the number of out-of-school children. But these people will still come to bring degradation to us and assassinate our character. That is me talking now. They will come to say Nigeria has the highest number of out-of-school children. Does it mean that we're not doing anything? Does it mean that even you seated here, Borno State, does it mean that your state is not doing anything to bring down the number of out-of-school children? You are doing a lot. All the states are doing a lot, but they will just come up with that figure. So we must have to come up to say it is not true. I said National Commission for Emergencies and Out-of-School Children last week reported with evidences 25,000 brought back to school in various states. Anyway, just think about it. And we must begin to come up with our own data. And this has led the ministry to establish what we call NEDI, Nigerian Education Data Initiative. So what that means is that we will now be responsible for reporting our own data, and we will not leave it for other persons to report. So NEDI is there to make sure that even you as CEO, even you as CSO, even you as NGO, report directly what you have done. And we have a central point that collates, harmonizes, and reports accurately the data that we have, so that you can now come up, assuming that a NEDI is here and they have concluded all, they will tell you with evidence that it is not true, that in maybe Jigawa State, so and so thing happened, because they get daily data from all the states. And you come to the dashboard, even in the Minister of State's office, you go to Enugu State, click Enugu State, and they will give you the data that they have fed in from Enugu State on the number of children that came to school that day, the number of teachers, the infrastructure they have in school. This is what NEDI is doing for the education sector. Please clap for Ministry of Education. Thank you. The sixth one is our focus on quality assurance in education. And I'm also happy that CC is also working on that. Your accelerated program is just wonderful. And thanks to MERDC that has also developed the curriculum to facilitate that. When you can only have quality education delivery when you have quality teachers, true or false? Yeah. So we're focusing on making sure that we give our teachers quality training, pre-service training. So wherever you have TTI, like teacher training institutions, there are a lot of focus on it now, because we must train teachers, teacher education, teacher professional development, and teacher well-being, which is very important. If a teacher is hungry, and gets into a class. That's when, if the child, the learner, annoys him or her, you can give a dirty slap out of hunger and frustration. So if teachers are well taken care of, both physically, psychologically, emotionally, it will make the difference. So we are focusing on teacher education, teacher development, teacher well-being. And so far, there are so many activities going on under quality assurance. Even school grading, it is on board now. And so many things are just coming up. And we're happy that CC is also working, and we invite all other collaborators, partners, into this program. Like I mentioned before, the Minister of State is very, very passionate about Lumina. And she has asked us that wherever we go, we talk about Lumina very, very well. So you might not know what Lumina is all about, but I'm going to just read it out for you now. Lumina 2030, illuminating her path through education and economic empowerment. It's girl-child focused. So illuminating the girl-child path through education and economic empowerment. Lumina 2030 is a bold national initiative led by Federal Ministry of Education aimed at educating and economically empowering 1 million underserved Nigerian girls by the year 2030. The initiative focuses on engaging out-of-school girls, particularly in underserved and hard-to-reach communities, while equipping their mothers and caregivers with vocational skills and financial tools to support sustained learning. Although Lumina may appear to be an acronym, it is not. It is a symbolic name that captures the initiative's mission to illuminate her path. So when you hear Lumina, it is actually illuminate. Illuminate, to bring to light, to clear the way. Breaking the cycle of poverty and marginalization through inclusive education and empowerment. The initiative follows a 3-phase model. The root phase, which involves economic empowerment of mothers and caregivers. The STEM phase, as access to foundational education for girls. And the Bloom phase, which gives life skills, leadership development, and vocational training for adolescent girls. It's just like a tree that you have the root of a tree. You have the stem of a tree, and then you have the branches, and we call them the bloom. Lumina 2030 will be piloted in 12 states across the 6 geopolitical zones. You have Yobe and Taraba in northeast. You have Kano, Jigawa in northwest. North Central, you have Benue and FCT. In the southeast, you have Ebonyi and Anambra State. You have Bayelsa, Akwa Ibom in south-south. You have Lagos and Oyo in southwest. These states are selected based on need and readiness with the goal of scaling nationally to all the 36 states. The success of this initiative will depend on the active leadership and commitment of state governors and commissioners of education to integrate Lumina into state education plans and systems. The long-term goal is to institutionalize Lumina within federal and state education ministries, ensuring sustainability beyond 2030. This includes aligning it with the education sector strategic plan, the national gender policies, and the sustainable development goals, with a focus on equity, inclusion, and systemic reform. Lumina 2030 is not just a program, it is a movement to transform the lives of Nigerian girls, their families, and the nation. It is a movement not only to leave the girls in the kitchen, but also to empower them to break the iron ceiling. And yes, we can. All the ladies in the house? Yes, we have. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ujang, for that wonderful speech. I actually learned a lot. There are a couple of initiatives that I personally didn't know that the Federal Ministry of Education, is currently working on, and I'm sure it's an enlightening session, for some of us here as well. Okay, so before we go for our tea break and group photograph, as Dr. Ujang was speaking, we had the honor of having Engineer Aidan Sharif, PhD, FNSE, who is representing the MD Northwest Development Commission, Professor Abdullahi Shehumaji, join us. Please, a round of applause to recognize his presence. Thank you, sir. I don't know if you have like a goodwill message for us from the commission. Okay, later? All right, okay then. Thank you very much. Associate for Change in Ghana. She'll be speaking on the role and importance of the Policy Learning Working Group. Dr. Leslie, can you hear us?
She's muted.
Dave, unmute her, please.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now, Dr. Leslie.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, we can.
Can you clearly hear me?
Yes, we can.
Good morning, Nigeria.
Good
morning, Ghana. Greetings from Ghana. I guess we're going into the afternoon in Nigeria, but we're still in morning in Ghana. I see a lot of lovely ladies in the front row there, but not all are wearing their Nigerian attire. I'm wearing my Ghanaian outfit. I'm wearing you'll have to. So, good afternoon. Thank you for, I would like to just have a few introductions. Honorable, is the Minister of Education there for Nigeria?
Yes. Represented.
Honorable Minister and Deputy Ministers, key stakeholders that are being invited by SISI and others in Nigeria to this important stakeholder meeting. Greetings from Ghana, West Africa, your sister country. Can you hear me, Dr. Adefe?
Yes, Dr. Leslie, we can hear you.
Good. Hello? Can anyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay, is it loud enough for everyone? I
Dr.
can't see
Leslie.
much.
Dr. Leslie, we can hear you
Yes.
very clearly. Thank you.
Wonderful. Okay, so Dr. Adefe, how many minutes do I have to greet this august group of policymakers and innovators for Nigeria?
15 minutes, Dr. Leslie.
Okay, so colleagues and honorable ministers and policymakers from the Ministry of Education and from some of the innovators across Nigeria, thank you for this amazing stakeholder workshop that you are participating in, actively engaged. I'm going to speak for about 10 or 15 minutes and I'll use a few of the slides to assist me. But as you know, can I pull up a few of the slides now, Dr. Adefe?
Yes, please, Dr. Leslie.
Okay, so if you can see our front, can you see that first slide?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So this has been about a 10-year crusade on looking at alternative modalities in West Africa. Our group has been building on a lot of evidence over the last 20 years that the quality of primary education in West Africa is not always keeping an international standard of education for the most marginalized and most remote, and now these areas of conflict and fragility. Nigeria, unfortunately, is a good case in point, and many parts of Ghana in the 5 northern regions are also a very good case in point, where we see a lot of challenges related to sustaining trained teachers in rural deprived areas of the extreme poverty zones of these countries. Teachers unwilling to travel and willing to stay and work as educators in the areas that need the most. So in Nigeria's case, we've been working with the wonderful Nigerian government, the Ministry of Education over the last 6 years, thanks to Dr. Ujam and others, Dr. Folake, as well as we've had a team from Niger State and Borno State recently in June visit Ghana for a high-level conference, all related to the accelerated education programs in West Africa. Now, your government has now appointed an agency dedicated to that, and is now working feverishly to ensure its investment and financing of what will be one of the most important agencies in Nigeria that is dedicated to children that are out of school, that are also marginalized due to their demand for labor on the farm, and with the cattle in the country. That agency has also been followed and supported by the Nigerian government's basic education program that is aimed at out-of-school children transitioning back into the formal system. Our 3 companies, including CESI, Associates for Change, and Dallon Consultants in Sierra Leone, worked for 5 years to provide evidence to the Ministry of Education in Nigeria to ensure that they could invest more funding into this mechanism. We're very happy that there's been so much focus on this now, but we also see the need for the federal ministry to work closer with the Borno State and some state governments that are experiencing fragility, conflict, and exclusion. This is not only due to conflict, it's due to many, many different factors, including environmental, including climate change, but this marginalization continues in West Africa throughout the region. And it's important for policymakers to now look at the education emergency context that we're working in to ensure children are included in quality basic education. Now, in our findings in the last 5 years, and I'll go through those in a few minutes, one of the key findings is that it's very difficult to sustain 6 years of primary education in these contexts. So in the case of Sierra Leone, the government has now decided to collapse the primary school system into 3 years in those areas of conflict, fragility, and extreme poverty. And Associates for Change is working feverishly with that government to ensure that the 6 years are now collapsed into 3. And we call it foundation, literacy, numeracy, science, as well as civic education. That program will be running in Sierra Leone for the next 10 to 15 years until things are able to stabilize. Burkina Faso's government, which we're also working with on this project, has invested 20% of its education financing towards what we call alternative education. So we're expecting Nigeria to be a leader in this process. And that means that we have to put some funding to the action and the planning that has been taking place over the last 6 to 7 years in Nigeria. You have great state governments ready to go, but they need support and encouragement and planning to get it going. Borno is just one of many, but we have decided to work closely with Borno as a case study so that you can bring the evidence to bear and work with the stakeholders in that state to scale up some of the innovations that have proven without equivocation that they can help children reach foundation learning in 1 or 2 years. So what I'm presenting today more or less is given evidence. We've already had this evidence. I'm just going to make this into more of a show here. And we'll just look quickly at the current project, because this builds on the 6 years of evidence base in Ghana, Nigeria, and Sierra Leone, and now we've added Burkina Faso and also Liberia. But we are looking at the next 3 years of helping the Ministry of Education in Nigeria construct an education and emergency plan that is costed and that is on the ground and implemented with efficacy, so that its children in those states that are experiencing fragility and conflict and violence have a chance for foundation learning in those areas with psychosocial support for teachers and learners. We believe that the governments of Nigeria can really be leaders in this process, but there needs to be a lot of interaction between researchers, policymakers, and innovators. And I'm pretty sure everyone in that room represents those 3 bodies. Can I see the innovators? If you can put up your hands so I can see those of you that are considered NGO innovators. Horn of Borno, can you put up your hand if you're there? Horn of Hope, Plan Nigeria. Are any of you in that room, please? I can't see your hands oh, excellent. Excellent. So the Ministry of Education will be learning and working closely with the evidence that the researchers from CESI and others are making in the next 3 years. But we already have quite a bit of evidence. So this scaling research project really is to build that evidence base again, but more importantly, move to scale. Because we already have quite a bit of evidence on the efficacy of accelerated education programming, girls-focused programming, the GTG program in Nigeria, and psychosocial emotional programming that has been done by innovators like IRC, the Catholic Relief Service, and others in the West African continent. And now we need our teacher training colleges to embrace that, so that when they deploy teachers to these areas, they are ready. They are ready to embrace the fragility and conflict that could occur in their schools and in their communities. We have to prepare them for this process. So what we want to see is much more community-driven approach, with government providing the frameworks and the support needed financially and policy-wise to allow for these NGOs and for their own state governments to invest in these innovations and go to scale. That's what this research is about. We will be working closely with you. So the first research question is, of course, how can we scale the impact of selected education emergency innovations in FCV areas of Nigeria, Burkina Faso, and Ghana? How can we build the coalition for education emergency? Well, in the case of Nigeria, you have one under UNICEF in Borno State, but you'll have to strengthen it. These coalitions are weak, in some cases strong, but in Ghana's case, we found that it wasn't even existing in the Upper East. So we've been building that coalition over the last year of this research to strengthen it. The accelerated education and complementary basic education programs running in Ghana and Nigeria are key examples of the innovations we need to invest in and scale. Just as Burkina Faso has done, their governments are now convinced that there's no way a primary school will reopen for another 4 or 5 years maybe. And already over 6,000 schools have closed in Burkina Faso. On paper, we know that about 300 to 250 have closed in Nigeria, but it's probably more. But that's something your policymakers will have to drill down to. And we'd be happy to assist you in our situational analysis that we're doing in the states of the northeast of Nigeria. We'll be looking at the numbers of teachers that have left the districts, left the states, and moved away from those areas. We've also looking at what can we do, especially for the psychosocial support for teachers and learners, and in many cases, girls. So this project is to generate the evidence, mobilize the knowledge, and build capacity of government and non-state actors to work synergistically on education and emergency to prepare and to support ongoing efforts. We have lots of innovators. I haven't mentioned all of these education stakeholders because I know there's too many to put in this slide, but just to name some of them. The Ministry, of course, of Education, Basic Education Commission. We also have the Curriculum Development Division that Dr. Chima has been working with, accelerated education and basic education curriculum. We have the Center of the Studies of the Economy, CESI, Horn of Hope, Corn of Bonheur, UNICEF, and others we mentioned. But in so many cases, we have to work with coalitions and working across non-state and state boundaries so that we can build capacity. So far, what have we achieved in this project? Well, we've collected a lot of evidence so far. Even to win the project, we had to have already identified innovations that are working. So we've done a policy brief in each country that's available for Ghana, Nigeria, and Sierra Leone. It's on our website that I'll give you in a few minutes. And Burkina Faso. Now these innovations, we're also working on another IDRC project on early childhood, where there is no KG classrooms. So we're starting to see community-driven approaches in these fragile areas as well. The second studies that Dr. James and Adedije, Dr. Adefe are working on is a situational analysis to track the innovation and the impacts that those innovations could have. But first, we have to situate the innovation, which means we have to understand the context that we're working in. How many schools have closed? How long have they been closed for? What impact has this had on the populations? Teachers, community members, children, women, adults in the community. What has been the impact of that school closure? And if the school is not functioning, it may not be closed, but maybe it's not operating in the same way it usually does because there's fewer teachers, there might be less food being transported to the area for school feeding. There could be fewer resources, and people are in general scared in those areas. We know a lot of this from the from the media as well, the impact that, especially in Northeast Nigeria, this has been a 15, 20-year challenge. And girls especially have been affected, their families, and youth in general are affected by this situation. Teachers who have left their communities, what does that mean to the community? What impact does it have on the children? So we're in the midst of doing what we call a situational analysis to see what we can help you policymakers and innovators do, and understanding. So this is a co-creation. The co-creation workshop will start tomorrow, where you can ask all the questions that you want in that parameter. And then we will also engage some of you on the field. In some cases in northern Ghana, we have our innovators collecting the data for us because the area is just of high risk. It's of high risk in Boku because of cross-border problems between different places. We have insurgencies in the Upper East now in Ghana. It's also related, of course, to the Garamsey, or what we say mining communities, where gold and others have attracted this type of extremism as well as insurgency. So Nigeria is not alone in this process, although Nigeria has a much, much, much bigger challenge that has to be addressed through simple innovations that will allow for children to reach basic education, not necessarily moving through a formal system of education. Now, we're working closely with the UNICEF on this project, and we're working with many of these other UN agencies, UNHCR, UNICEF, and others, because they have what they call the learning passport. They have other innovations that are working to try and help children in those areas. So we'll do the situational analysis to track and to see where we're at with this environment and the impact it's having on the children, but also measure the impact the innovations have had in this context. We're also working to disseminate a risk assessment that was recently done in all 3 countries, and I'm sure Sissy can share that risk assessment. We're going to be having a webinar on the 17th, I think. It's not the 17th of, and you're more than welcome to join that webinar that will go on the 17th so that we can share the link with you and then go into detail as to what we found out in Ghana, Nigeria, and Burkina Faso. Friends, I want us to look at what the situation is of out-of-school children. And believe me, it's not because we haven't been trying, but we're losing the battle on out-of-school children in West Africa. When we started this project a few years ago, 5 or 6 years ago, the numbers of out-of-school children in Nigeria were not up to 19 million, although maybe the counting wasn't done in deep fashion. Now, internationally, there's records at UNICEF and IEP that state, okay, we're up to 19 million. But at the time we started this project, it was more like 12. In Ghana's case, it was 600,000. And now the numbers have moved to double. And of course, the census was done in both Ghana, Nigeria, and other countries. And of course, the census helps us to keep track of the numbers of out-of-school children. But there's no question, it doesn't really matter. The numbers are very grandiose, very large, very, very large. And as we move forward, we have to consider, are these innovations going to be able to capture a good number of these children if they're invested on by the governments, if the governments make the investment. Many times donors have been responsible for this investment, but no longer can we pull on USAID. No longer the development community is going to foot the bill for this. And that's a very, very big change in West Africa. I know Ghana's government has been heavily dependent on donor assistance, and so has Nigeria, so has Burkina Faso, maybe a little less in Burkina Faso. So we have to wake up to the current aid reality, that it will be government financing and private sector that come in to help these out-of-school children to transition into foundation learning. I'm not going to go too much into the sub-questions because I'm sure the co-creation workshop will do that. I want to cut right to the main brunt of this whole project, which is we have come up already with several different documents that we want to share with you as soon as possible. They're on our website. The stakeholder workshops, you're the last country to hold yours. But Ghana, Burkina have already held their stakeholder workshops. We have an analysis report for all 3 countries. Ghana has done its, Burkina Faso, and I think Nigeria is just about to finish. But for all 3 countries, we have policy briefs. And we have a very, very good one on the effectiveness of accelerated education programming and girls-focused programming in Nigeria. But I'd encourage you to read the ones for Ghana and for Burkina Faso. We're a learning community, so all of us have to learn the parameters of what we're going to be doing. I'm sure that Dr. Defe and Adediji will take us through this at a later stage, but we're using the UN framework that has been developed by the ILO, UNHCR, to measure the context of which we're working on, the political, the economic, the social and legal parameters in which this research is taking place. And then we will be doing those situational analysis to drill down on the impact that the context is having on the people and populations, and what are the interventions that can show outcomes for the governments that are investing in it. I'll stop at this last few slides where we look at the theory of change and the potential outcomes that this project could have. The last slide I think is most important, which is, oh, sorry. Did I stop that share? No. Do you still see the share? Aha, here it is. Okay, so for Nigeria, we believe that if some of the actors get more engaged in the education emergency space, we will be able to improve the quality and dynamism of the national strategies for education emergency and the investment plans, using innovations that hit on accelerated education programming, and we need to know the budget lines that are given in the budget for those innovations. How much more is Nigeria going to invest in this? We've spoken a lot to he came to Ghana, Dr. Adefe. What is his? Dr. Usum, Dr. Usum. Is Dr. Usum there?
No.
Awesome.
He's represented.
He's represented, okay. Thank you, sir. Well, we've spoken a lot to the Nigerian government about how we can scale up accelerated education in Nigeria. And we're even willing to come on boots on the ground. A Niger state is waiting, Borno state and others. And it's up to the ministry, the federal ministry, really to, I think, have a consultative meeting to really see how to plan the next steps for accelerated education. I'm sure there is a plan, and we'd like to engage our evidence on that plan, using the integration possibly of what we call volunteer teachers, not necessarily trained, but senior high school students that will get a certification to be volunteers on this program, as well as using radio and teacher training for psychosocial support. Trained teachers may not stay in these areas, so the accelerated education programs depend on community-based volunteer educators, mostly senior high school students that have not gone on to tertiary. But they need also to get certification by the government and possibly by one of the teacher training colleges. The other point that we want to see moving forward is use of radio, so that in the very harmful and conflict-affected areas where no one can go, the communities can still tune in to a daily radio for accelerated education foundation learning in their mother tongue or English. Finally, to prepare our teachers to work in these areas, we think that the scalability of this program is based on teacher colleges. By engaging the teacher training college in a very low-cost approach to training its last year of teachers. Third and fourth year teachers should be prepared to work in conflict and fragile and affected areas of any of parts of the Northeast. And then, of course, the children and their families. So some of the ways forward, I'm sure you've heard of these models. The speed schools, the complementary basic education models, and the girls' empowerment models, they all have a different approach to accelerated education, but they are in that space. My final slide, I think is really the impact that these programs have been having. The impact is such that 80% of accelerated education children transition back up to upper primary, often having skipped 4 years of primary school, 3 years, but they're at the same level of comprehension and phonetic awareness as their peers in the P4 and P3 level. 55% of learners achieve the foundation literacy on international standards. Girls are particularly able to negotiate out of early marriage and other sociocultural practices that hold them back from attaining higher levels of education. The majority of AEP beneficiaries complete primary and junior high school when they're given opportunity. But because of the poverty and extreme poverty, some do not finish junior high school because of that lack of basic needs being met. So those who do complete are very motivated and capable of being leaders in their communities, and often they come back to volunteer their services as AEP facilitators. So when they finish senior high school, they go back to their communities and continue to serve their communities. And from a point of view of sustainability, this is what the capacity building in Africa needs. We need dedicated young people who are willing to serve in their communities for some time, not forever, but for a period of 1 or 2, 3 years before transitioning to tertiary level education. Once they're at tertiary level, they've escaped the system, and it's unlikely they'll come back to serve in those areas. So we have to look at the reality that we're working in. We're working in a very challenging reality. The reality is that we're pumping out about, in Ghana's case, about 7,000 teachers a year, but very few of them are willing to go to those extreme poverty zones. So those zones have been without trained teachers for 2 decades, and we have the evidence on this. Nigeria is likely the same. So the deployment of trained teachers has been a challenge, but it's become more of a challenge in FCB areas, fragile, conflict, and violence-affected areas of the West Africa. So the question now for policymakers is, then what? If this is the evidence that we have from deployment studies that have been done in the last 10 years with USAID and others, what is the next steps? Is it to move to this alternative complementary basic education system and present this as a modality for the poor in those areas and the conflict-affected families with investment, equitable investment, not 1%, not 2%. We're saying 7% in most cases will be required for governments like Nigeria in the next 5 years. Minimum of 7% in basic education, moving towards an alternative system. All of the evidence points to these outcomes. It's cheaper, it's faster, it's more able to reach the poor and achieving the goals that we all have set for the SDGs, but most importantly, the learning outcomes. The learning outcomes are phenomenal. Children read, write, and numerate within 1 year of an AEP because the quality it's providing in their local language, the quality of basic education and foundation learning. I won't have time to go through these models, but this is all on our website. We have copious amounts of models that are being used in Ghana, Sierra Leone, Nigeria, and other places. I think that is more or less it. So in terms of what we've learned so far, we have to continue capacitating government, non-state actors, and researchers to thoroughly investigate what options we have in terms of education and emergency. Increase state funding as well as private sector. Expand the use of digital tools through radio and low-tech solutions. Integrate, where possible, in our training colleges, psychosocial support for teachers. And most importantly, if the teachers are volunteer, allow that to happen through in-service training at the local level. Institutionalize and scale up accelerated education, and invest in community-driven approaches. This has become very clear to me using our early childhood model, which is now fully on the ground using a community-led approach. And they are feeding their children, they are training their kids in early childhood in some of the most remote and deprived areas of the north of Ghana through the Saheli model that was introduced a few months ago. And I know this is possible. So this is our website. This is our coalition that Dr. James and others have been building with Nabakado, the Catholic Church in the north. And we are now at a stage to share those results. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Continue, Dr. Adefe. Thank you. Dr. Adefe, are you there?
Yes, Dr. Wesley. Thank you so much, Dr. Wesley. So the next session.
So I'll launch the Policy Learning Working Group in a few minutes and we'll talk about their role, but I'd like to hear from the audience, the Nigerian participants. I know how strong you are over there in Nigeria. Please give us some questions and interaction. Is this doable in Nigeria? Because I've been working about 6 years on this with Adefe and others. I'd love to hear from you. What do the policy makers think about this approach? It's not new to Nigeria, and it's something that we'd love to hear from you.
Does anybody want to respond to Dr. Leslie's question? Or if you have any questions for Dr. Leslie, I'm sure she'll be happy to respond to them. Or if you have a response to Dr. Leslie's question. Okay, Dr. Leslie?
Yes?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so Dr. Olatunji David will have a presentation later on, and her presentation covers the question that you asked. So I'm sure during her session, she will throw more light on your question, if that's fine.
Which question?
Your earlier comment, the question you asked earlier about the implementation in Nigeria.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Okay. So we'll just go now quickly into the launching of the Policy Learning Working Group. So over to you now, Dr. Leslie, for the launch of the Policy Learning Working Group.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Adefe. Okay, well, colleagues, I think that we understand the need to have a mechanism in Nigeria to interact and ensure that the policymakers, when they need the evidence, have a way of soliciting and getting together with the researchers and innovators that are on the ground collecting evidence and finding ways to support government. The Policy Learning Working Group contains state actors, led usually by the chief director. In this case, I think it's Dr. Faluke, who's the head of the policy planning, monitoring, evaluation, as well as Dr. Ujam, who's the representative for IDRC, as well as GPE. So there's a support there. And the Policy Learning Working Group is got to include the innovators and all of the others that you're listing here. To first of all, facilitate policy dialogue in alignment with the education innovations and national education strategies, to translate the research findings into practical policy recommendations, and to guide the contextualization of education models for regional and local implementation, and to promote coordination among key stakeholders, including civil society and donors. It's also to try and identify strategies to go to scale, to move to scale. The one I mentioned about the College of Education, other ways that we can go to scale. So Dr. Faluke as the chair, and also Dr. Ojam as the co-chair, Dr. Garba Gandu from the NERD, the co-chair, and Cecilia Uba, director of the College of Education. This is excellent to see these names and to see the level of commitment that the Nigerian government has towards this Policy Learning Working Group. And really, we want you to continue working with this even beyond the project. This is just one of many research projects that are operating in Nigeria. Hajia Lare, who's the Director of Education Support Services, Dr. Chima, nice to see you, sir, and Dr. Adamu Garama from UBEC, and Dr. Tijani. Is Dr. Tijani there?
Yes,
from Borno.
Yes.
Yo, aha, sir, honorable, yo. Borno State Government Representative, fantastic. Then we have Dr. Mohammed, the Executive Director of Kabuda. We have Dr. Ransom, the Executive Director of Horn of Hope. We have Dr. Aminike Umesi, the Director of NIMA, the National Education Emergency Agency of Nigeria, and their representatives from UNICEF Borno. Do we have the UNICEF Borno State representative? I'd like all of them to come to the front so that we can, as I mentioned them, it would be nice for everyone to come to the front to identify yourself, and then we can also launch the Policy Learning Working Group. So starting with Dr. Faluke, if he can or she can come to this front, that would be great. Dr. Good. Thank you, Dr. Faluke. Good. I haven't, Doc, can you come to the camera so I can see you a little better? It's just, you're a little distant there, and I've heard your name 100 times, and I'd love to see you. Oh, wonderful. Let's give it a big hand. Wonderful, Dr. Faluke. Dr. Ojam, are you there? Aha, Dr. Ojam, yo. Wonderful, wonderful. My sister, she's wearing a lovely cloth today. Dr. Ojam, aiko, as we say. Okay, now Dr. Garba Gandu. Nerd. Aha. Dr. Is he there or no? Dr. Cecilia Uba, Director of the College of Education. Hajia Lare, Dr. Lare. Very good, very good. Dr. Chima, where's our brother Dr. Chima? Dr. Chima. Look at this strong policy learning working group that's going to shape Nigeria. Udama Garama Ubek. Mr. Udama Garama Ubek. We have Dr. Tijani. Yo, come on up, Borno State Government Rep. Strong Dr. Tijani. And then we have Dr. Muhammad from Kabuda, if he can come up to the front, Dr. Ransom from Horn of Hope, and Dr. Umesi from NEMA. And then representative from the UNICEF Borno State Government, UNICEF's Education Emergency. Thank you. And then Lawal Ayola, NCCE, National Civic Education, I think. And then Plan International, Toby Ransomed. Save the Children. And if Dr. Mrs. The plan, if there's a plan representative, but more NUMEC, Mrs. Khalid. I think the whole audience is going to come to the front. Is there anyone left in the audience? I don't think so. No. Okay, and then Engineer Dan Sharif. Is Mrs. Khalid there from NUMEC?
Yes.
Really good. Yo. Make sure we get photographs of this august policy learning working group for the president, because it's critical that we know the ministry is so experienced, best people in the country on solving education for out-of-school children and those ready to drop out. Engineer Dan Sharif. Dr. Dan Sharif.
He's there.
Development Commission, Northwest. I'm on it, Dr. Leslie, I'm represented, and National Commission for Mass Literacy representative, and Sisi. Dr. Chima or Dr. Adedeji or someone from Sisi, if we can have you at the top. Excellent, Dr. Adefe. Now let's look at that gender balance. Do we have a lot of women on that team? Yes. It looks to me like you've almost got a pure, and you've also got diversity across the country, north, northwest. What is missing is a voice of youth. We're missing the voice of youth in this group, but we will get them.
We have one here.
I think Dr. Adefe, if you can get Horn of Hope to produce one voice of young people from the IDP camp to be on this program, to voice the issues around youth, you may need one or two. Are we ready to launch the Policy Learning Working Group for Nigeria? That will outlive this program many years. You will meet at least 2 or 3 times a year to deliberate on the evidence and to see how best to invest in those innovations before the budgets are being constructed by your governments and before the governments put the budget into final stages. You will meet at least once or twice before that. And after the budget is read, you will look and see what monies have been allocated for your work in the area of out-of-school children and in areas of education and emergency. And we wish you all the best in Nigeria, because we'll be doing the same in Burkina and in Ghana. We'll be doing the same. So we will say a prayer, a special prayer, and this particular policy learning working group, which is most important to West Africa, given the numbers of out of school and youth that are also dropping out in large numbers, we want to wish and call the Almighty forward to help us in this most important endeavor. So I would like one of my brothers who's Muslim and a Christian, if there is a Christian, and I'll say a Baha'i prayer for education in Africa, for children in Africa. Okay, thank you.
So, in the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, we pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for us to succeed in the development of education in Nigeria and in Africa as a whole. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين.
In Jesus' name. Father, we thank you for this time. Honor you, we bless your name. Thank you for these people that you have selected through the authority. Father, to see to the development of the children. Father, these children, if they are not developed, if they are not trained, if they are not educated, they will become a menace to the society tomorrow. And that is why this work is important. Grant this group wisdom and knowledge and understanding to be able to train these children, to bring out policies that will help this country so that this country will progress educationally. Thank you for hearing us. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
O my God, unite the hearts of thy servants and reveal to them a great purpose. May they follow thy commandments and abide in thy law. Help them, O Lord, in their endeavors. Leave them not to themselves, but guide their steps by the light of thy knowledge and cheer their hearts by thy love. Verily, thou art their helper and their Lord.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you, friends.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. We are now launching the Nigeria Education Policy Learning Working Group, led by the Ministry of Education and supported by several agencies and organizations across the state and non-state actors, working together with researchers, practitioners, and innovators to bring education to the most deprived and fragile areas of Nigeria. We'll be praying for you as you do your work in the next 3 to 4 years with this government and others. And this is duly launched.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dr.
Do we have a non-alcoholic champagne?
So we really appreciate you, Dr. Leslie, and your team here in Nigeria and the international team. We appreciate the honor you have given to us on behalf of the team of the Policy Working Group on ensuring the education of the marginalized and the fragile and conflict-affected areas of Nigeria. We say a very big thank you for the confidence reposed in us, and we pledge, members, aren't we? Yeah. We are pledging that we'll give all that is within us, as much as we have the means to do that, to do our duties. We have the TOR that will be sharing. We have been given the broad overview of the TOR, the terms of engagement, but then we work within all that God enables us with to ensure that we deliver on the mandates given to us. We are pledging this before you all and before the Almighty God. God help us, we shall accomplish. Thank you very much. Thank you, remember. So we'll be meeting, we'll be discussing how we're going to meet and how we're going to work. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, everyone, for your patience and attention so far. Next, we'll be going into a session which would be presented by the new chair of the Policy Learning Working Group, Dr. Mrs. Folake Olatunji David. She's the Director of Basic Education Department and GPE Focal Person at the Federal Ministry of Education, Abuja. She'll be coming to give an overview of Nigeria's strategy for out-of-school children, that is on the Accelerated Basic Education Program. Ladies and gentlemen, please let us make welcome Dr. Mrs. Folake Olatunji for her presentation.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. Distinguished participants from far and near, I want to appreciate and welcome you all. I'm sure you're all been welcome very warmly, but I want to really appreciate you for being here today, especially for those of us from the Northeast, from Borno. We've been working on different platforms together, so they are not new people to me. And my colleagues from the ministry, the directors here present, you're welcome. And the minister's rep, why is he sitting at the back? He should be the one conducting and doing everything for us. Of course, he's also a GPE HICS person. I'm also privileged to serve as GPE rep focal point for Nigeria. So we've been working on these issues, and we're excited that CC is taking it up as one of the very key programs for this time. And to let you know that the issue of out-of-school children is one of the fundamental things on the heart of the present administration of His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. In fact, I just had a meeting this morning with the Honorable Minister on out-of-school children, looking at the national strategy. And of course, accelerated basic education is one of the strategies that we're using at the national level and a national one to address the issue of out-of-school. Like we know, even if it's 1 million children we have, it is a key thing. And it should be addressed with all that we can, not to talk of when we have several millions that are out of school in Nigeria. So Nigeria is looking at ensuring that all our children are in school. We do have a national strategy, but we're not going to look at that now. It's broad and it includes looking at what ways we can use to ensure we address this strategy. And APEP has been identified as one of the key solutions to ensuring that all children are in school. And that not just they are learning, they have access to basic education. They have means of ensuring that they are useful to themselves and to the society. Even if they have missed out or they have not been privileged to be in formal school, then what can we do to ensure that they are not left behind? They are provided with the right tools to enable them to live meaningful lives. So we are happy that Nigeria has been, is one of the countries that are signing up on this flagship to ensure that the high number of schools through this ABEP are particularly in conflict-affected areas. And it's not just in those areas that we have out-of-school children. We'll talk about 19 million as we have here. We are talking about nationwide, how many we have that are not currently learning under organized training by the government or by other providers. Mark you, if they are not in school, they are learning something from somewhere. And might be some undesirable things they are learning. So we want to ensure that we give them the right set of skills, knowledge, and all the right tools to live meaningful lives. So what we're doing in Nigeria is beyond just the Northeast, beyond Borno. Of course, because this is an organization, you cannot cover, again, this is a pilot, you cannot cover the whole country. But for us as government, we're ensuring that this strategy, in fact, the government has adopted ABEP as to be used in non-formal setting. I think Nigeria deserves a round of applause. our present administration, we have adopted ABEP as our flagship response to address the issue of out of school. And we just had a meeting in Lagos, supported by Plan, and some other partners working in the sector, to see how we're going to scale up ABEP, how we're going to use it to address the issue of out of school. And I'm sure my colleagues from Borno were part of the meeting, because we invited all the states that have action plan to address this. So it's not just conflict affected areas, we have some that are economically affected, that the children are roaming about the street. We have some that are socially affected. So all the children that are not in school and the youth that are missed out of education, we are using this. So it is designed to provide flexible, age-appropriate education that enables children to catch up formal schooling or access vocational training. So it is provided, is condensing the formal learning. Like, we have 3 modules of it. First module will be for the first 3 years of primary schooling. So you have year 1, 9 months. Then the next module will be for compressing 4, 5, 6, primary 4, 5, 6. And if the children are ready, they can be mainstreamed into the formal setting. And what we are doing beyond mainstreaming in Nigeria is to ensure that those that, maybe because they are above the age, or they are not even interested, or they don't have the means of staying in formal school, they can still receive the education and have some skills so that they can continue in that regards. And then the last 3 will be for junior secondary school. And we have the case study in Borno State, where people that are through the USAID supported program, OTL, those that have gone through the 3 years, they sat for junior secondary education examination, basic, and they passed. They excelled. So some of them are going into secondary, some of them they are still going to continue in their skills and their training. So it is a proof of concept that it can work. So let's go on. So the objective of ABEP is to reduce the number of out-of-school children in Nigeria, to provide a pathway for reintegration into formal schooling or skills acquisition, to address learning gaps caused by conflict, displacement, or socioeconomic barriers, and to enhance access to quality, inclusive, and equitable education for marginalized groups. And the target beneficiaries is for children that are beyond school enrollment age. So you don't just say, okay, because it is fast, let's introduce it to 5 to 6 year old. They may not have the ability, the mental readiness to engage in such, because it's compressed. They need some form of maturity. For children aged 10 to 18 that are not in school, adolescents are affected by displacement. Now, not based on age, but because they need to have those basic skills. So we now use it based on not having been displaced. Learners in hard-to-reach, nomadic, or underserved communities, with special focus on girls, young mothers, and children with disability. We want to make it as inclusive as possible. So the features is accelerated, like we've heard. It has condensed curriculum covering basic education. So NERDC, Nigeria Education Research Development Commission, has worked extensively with all other stakeholders in the sector to develop the curriculum that we're using for ABEP. And like I said, it covers the 9 years of basic education. And what we're doing currently is to also introduce skills into this curriculum. So it's not just about literacy and numeracy. Literacy and numeracy for what? Some of them might not be going back into the formal school system, like we said. So even if they do 1 year, they will have some elements of skills that is peculiar to their area. Some of them are already streetwise, so to say. You now get a 10 or 14-year-old and say, okay, because you have done 9 months, go to primary 4, or that is already used to coping and everything on outside. You might not be able to fit in. So they want to have some element of skills training for them for each level. And we're working on that with NERDC. So it will be ABEP plus. Then we have flexible learning schedules because it's non-formal setting. So it is designed with the schedule of the learners in mind. If it's an environment where they go out early in the morning to do some form of trade and the rest of them, then it will happen in the evening. If it's such that it's in the afternoon they're engaged on their task, then it may happen early in the morning or late in the evening. So it has flexible learning schedules, gender responsive and inclusive pedagogy. So how you teach now depends on the need of the learner. And there is, of course, gender responsive. If it's for girls or for boys, you look at how we are going to address them. And like I said, there's planned introduction of skills into ABEP. And then we're using, in Borno Adamawa on the Yobe, they use TAL methodology. But then, TAL is teaching at the right level, but basically it is meant for remedial. So we are looking at engaging TAL to work with NRDC to develop the proper methodology that will not just be for remedial, but for the proper teaching at that level. So it's not just about, because TAL happens from primary 4, when they have already been exposed to some form of teaching and learning. But when they are not, then the methodology that we use, normal TAL, might not work appropriately. But it is very, very interesting that we can adapt. And we are looking at having that so that it will be suited to the peculiarities of the learners as well as the teachers. So ABEP is community-based, uses community-based learning centers. So you don't have to travel some distance before you can access this. And trains facilitators and psychosocial support. I'm elated that Dr. Leslie was speaking about some form of provision to engage facilitators, because that is one major thing we have. One major thing we have is the issue of having facilitators. So if you can use the method of getting people that are just finishing secondary school to serve as volunteers, it will really, really go a long way before they enter higher institutions. And then, of course, if you also introduce it into the last year of teacher training in our teacher training colleges of education, so that teachers can also serve as facilitators in our ABEP centers with some form of incentives provided, of course. So that will go a long way in solving the issue of facilitators. And of course, they have to be trained. Not that we just get corpus and just send them straight, or school leavers and just send them straight into the classroom. We need to train them so that they can facilitate properly. So the implementation strategy, for the national one, we have a national implementation plan, which we are already working on. From the meeting we had 2 months ago, we have set up various committees. All agents, even the state, they are already developing their implementation strategy, because it's a veritable way of pumping up out of school children. And it happens under non-formal setup. So it cannot just be the same thing we do in the formal setting that we're going to use. We have to provide funds, like Leslie was advocating for 7% of the funding for basic education, which is quite commendable. If for us we're able to get the consent and the commitment and willingness of state governments to commit that, it will go a long way. You don't need to build structures. You can use existing school structures within the state. That is what even happened in Bay State, where ABEP was put into practice as a pilot, or where you have, each community will have a center where people converge. You can use them as learning centers and provide education. So we already have, then we have all the states, ministries of education, they're already bringing up their plan on how they're going to implement ABEP in their state, including the conflict-affected states, and where we have fragile and very peculiar situation. And it's a non-formal setup, delivery of education. So we have the agencies, we have specialized agencies delivering non-formal education in Nigeria. And for out of school, general out of school work plan that we have. We have these agencies, National Agency for Mass Education and Adult Literacy in Nigeria. We formerly call it NMEC. And then we have the state agencies for mass education in all the states. We are engaging the state governments and their suburbs to ensure that they make provision for them, because most times they are not properly funded to make provision for them so that they can work well and deliver on their mandates using the ABEP strategy. They have all agreed that that is the model they're going to be using for their learners. And then we have the National Commission for Nomadic Education, and then the agency that is set up for out-of-school children education specifically, National Commission for Almine Children and Out-of-School Children Education, as well as other NGOs we have in the system. They are going to be using this for non-formal setting, and then to ensure that whatever they are doing, they do it well. And then the challenges and gaps that we have insecurity and displacement, which is being addressed in some parts of the Northeast, not the entire Northeast, and it's being addressed, and learners are being taught, and Northwest, and even in some other parts of the country. But these are real issues. But then we find ways of working around this so that even the learners and the facilitators, they do that under safe and secure environments. And then we have limited funding and skill. So that's why we are engaging governors to ensure that they commit sufficiently to education, to basic education, and then, of course, to non-formal education. No transition rates to formal education. Yes, some of these people that participate, learners, some of them after the first year, they may leave and they may not even continue. But then that is why we are saying, let us see how we can engage them, provide skills for them. Even if they leave after the first or second year, we can ensure that they have something they can use for livelihood. And gender and disability inclusion gaps. So we have to consciously ensure that our programs are gender sensitive and include even people that have disability, one form of disability or the other. We now have a policy on inclusive education to ensure that this is put into play, and we are disseminating towards implementation in all these things. And we've spoken about inadequacy of facilitators and training in this form of education and trauma-informed care. So that's why I was happy that Dr. Leslie spoke about how we can engage more hands and provide psychosocial support for the facilitators. So in emergencies like we have in the Northeast, in Borno and some other, so it's a core part, ABEP is a core part of the strategy of education emergency in Nigeria. Supported, of course, UNICEF, Plan, and the rest of them, they are working with them. So it supports resilience, protection, and learning continuity for children affected by conflict and fragility. It's very suitable, so it can be a child that has dropped out or the youth that has not engaged in any form of education can have a place that they don't have to go, because there is no school. You can set up ABEP centers and they can learn. Because now ABEP can now contribute to national and global goals on inclusive education, ensuring that no one is left behind. So thank you so much for your attention. If there are comments or questions, I'll be happy to take them before I take mine.
Do you have any questions for Dr. Falake? Okay, so if there is no question, yes. Okay, there's a question. Okay.
Thank you very much, our dear director from FME. You have made a wonderful presentation on ABEP. One of the areas which ABEP seek to address is out-of-school children, as well as providing education in emergencies. You have mentioned that apart from numeracy and literacy that the learners will receive, they will also receive vocational training. And you made mention that schools and communities will be the centers where this learning is taking place. My challenge here is on how to provide the vocational training, because you may mention that these centers will not be established. The program will leverage on the existing structures, maybe schools or centers owned by the communities. Then in this situation, how do you see, how can it be possible for the learners to be trained in skills and vocational without providing the necessary equipment required for that training? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Any other one? Yes, so that I can.
Okay, I'm representing the private schools, and I was so glad when the representative of the minister said, a lot of numbers are being churned out, because a lot of us believe that many times in private sector, the private schools are not being considered. For instance, maybe we believe a lot that a lot of the out-of-school children are in our schools because they are not captured.
So I can speak with my consultant teacher. So in what way do the private schools come in? I'm not thinking of how do we make money. No. How do private schools help? Because I know it's one of the mandates that some of us give ourselves to take up some children, some indigent students in our communities. I have a number of them that they pay nothing. Even school uniforms and books we give to them. So if there are opportunities, private schools are willing, under some of our umbrella associations to support. So how do we come in? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Remember I told you, okay, let me just take this through. I told you I just came from a meeting. Incidentally, it's with private school owners or not of school children, the Honorable Minister. So, and it's quite commendable what you're doing as a private school owner, providing education. It's just God that will bless you. And I'm sure there are a lot of other private schools that are providing that CSR to just take care of people that cannot afford to pay and they don't have provision from government. So the government is now coming in to ensure that such provision is scaled up, because there's a limit to which you can take. You cannot take all the children that are out of school in your neighborhood. So we want to ensure that we are working out a modality with your national body. That's meeting we just had this morning, to ensure that they can capture as many as possible. They give us the cost, government will take it up and provide for them to provide for in low-cost school, because it's not for high end. Not that we just say, okay, like your school, I don't know how much they pay, or the highest paying school in Abuja, that's the one I want to go. So we look at low-cost schools, and then we can now provide for as many that they can take care of, including feeding of these children, because most of them is because of food. They don't even have food. That's why they are on the street, not in school. So thank you very much for what you are doing. So we are working on closer with private school owners to ensure that the role you've been playing is now properly supported by government. So that we can reach out to many more children. Because we know that we are in all the communities. Even in the most rural areas, you find some schools operating there. So we want to support and then ensure that we take care of many more children. Thank you. And on the part of vocational training, yes, we mentioned that we want to add skills to ABEP. yes, we are doing that, but then it's to also take into cognizance the TVET program being provided by the government. The federal government, even with the states, is now making effort to provide vocational training in all the states, in all localities in Nigeria. And even the portal is open, where people can access training, technical and vocational training that are well set up, that have all the equipment. So, but to be able to function in such centers, you have to be literate. So when we do our own ABEP and give you some skills from basic things through ABEP, it is expected that to be able to now put it into practice, you can now join these technical centers provided by the government, where even master craftsmen will give you some money to train, where the children, the learners can have some elements of practical lessons through these craftsmen at their level. So it's an integrated package. So of course, ABEP will give them some element of training, but it will not be sharpened up, it will be linked up to those centers we have at their level, and then even at a higher level, we now have technical colleges that will now be providing skilled, deep training for learners that are interested in. And they will give you some stipend, so that while they are learning, they have some money, and they will link up with the industry. So the government is looking at what we can do. It's a holistic program, but let us find our own place, provide them with the basic literacy and numeracy that will enable them to go on in life. Thank you.
The last question. Yes, ma'am. Can I go ahead? Okay, my name is Benjamin from Art Africa. My question is, if only the existing structures as school settings will be utilized, it means, is it the only ones to be used? I am asking because there are villages that are far, very remote and far from existing schools. And it is one of the reasons why there are out-of-school children. Like I've had projects that took me to remote areas where they have to cross rivers before they get to those institutions. So I am also asking that, is there any kind of collaboration with Meangwas, traditional rulers, such that in such areas they can have neutral ground, that even though they are not schools, they can make use of that as school centers? Then the last comment I will make is, the last question is that, how can we as civil society organization invoke such a program in an identified environment? Sometimes such a program will be going on, and then you discover that some places are left out. So what is the procedure that we can take to invoke such a program in an identified area? Thank you.
Go to answer. Let me just answer, then you can have. So thank you very much. Your first question, talking about where there are no schools. So that's why we have the national agencies, like I said, even as we speak, like the INCALs, they are all over the country now doing a mapping of out-of-school children. And where there are no schools, they are thinking of establishing learning centers within the community that will just be to provide education for wherever, no matter how remote. We have INCALs doing that. We have National Commission for Nomadic Education doing that. We have NLEC also doing that. They have a commission to go around the whole country to map all the out-of-school children. And then we are linking up, we are giving them learners identification number, unique one, and then linking up with NIN so that there will not be duplication, to identify as much as possible, to map where they are, where we have high incidence of out-of-school, where we don't have them much, but then to map them. And then when they are mapped, we can now see what we can do, providing learning centers. Even if there are no schools, there are no private schools that can provide, learning centers can be provided, because now they are working with all these community leaders that you just mentioned, because everybody wants their children educated, or any form of education, so we're engaging them. NCIOS is engaging them, and then whatever can be provided, the government is providing the fund, so it's not just being left on their own. MEC is also doing his own work. And I'm happy we have a director in NMEC here. Is your new year's on ground now?
Yeah, he has already handed over. He has been handed over to.
Okay, so we expect him to also work because the other two agencies are working.
It is already started the plan. We have done a planning meeting on what you are saying.
Aha.
And we are about to go out.
Thank you. So they will go to all the, so if you don't see them, they are the agencies. And they have state agencies, state offices as well. Thank you. Then for the NGOs, I saw the NACA. Okay, we have umbrella bodies, we have Sakefa, we have some other ones that you can work with to support, to even monitor, so that in case there are areas that are not being provided for, you can call their attention. Hey, government, we haven't reached this place. And then when we are working, we can support them to ensure they deliver. Thank you.
And one of the reasons of the creation of these regional development commissions, where like our commission, the Northwest Development Commission, is purposely to build new schools, infrastructure, and vocational centers. You understand? Part of the 6 mandates is education, and we have begun to do that. At least it's captured in our budget. You understand? We have 100, like for the Northwest Development Commission, we have 133 local governments. That's 7 states. So we will provide vocational centers and build new schools and also rehabilitate the old ones. So at least we collaborate with you and at least we find solution for this. Yeah, thank you.
So it's good to have, that's the power of collaboration. So Northwest is also doing so much, and even Southwest, I'm sure Southeast, they're also working, and other regions. So we pull our resources together. We look at what partners are providing, like what CC is doing in Borno is a beautiful thing. What Plan is doing in some states, what Plane is doing. By the time we add up everything, we'll go a long way in addressing the issue of out of school children. And no child will be left behind, God helping us. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll be running very quickly now into another session. We're a bit behind schedule because of how interactive the sessions has been. So we're going to be taking up quickly from where Dr. Falake left. I think Dr. Falake's closing presentation was on ABEP in education in emergencies. So good thing we have Hajia Lare here, a Director of Education Support Services, Federal Ministry of Education, and she's going to be giving us an in-depth overview of education in emergencies. Please let us welcome Hajia Lare for her presentation. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon once again, my dear colleagues and participants. May I stand on the existing order of protocol? My own presentation is very brief. So I'm delighted to stand before you today as the Director of Education Support Services Department of Federal Ministry of Education to discuss this critical theme: promoting education, educational solution, research for scaling education innovation in emergency contexts and fragile area affected by conflict and violence in Burkina Faso, Ghana, and Nigeria. As we navigate the complexities of education in emergency, our department has made a significant strides in promoting safe and resilient education system. Some of our notable achievements include: A, developing key policies and guidelines, which we have successfully developed in the National Policy on Safety, Security, and Violence-Free Schools minimum standards, and training for facilitators on minimum standards for safe schools. 2, capacity building. We have conducted training of trainers workshop to build teachers' capacity across various geopolitical zones and states, covering about 20 states. Resource development in this regard, we have created valuable resources such as handbook or blueprints of anti-bullying in schools, managing school-related violence, early warning signs, a guide to promoting schools in Nigeria, and climate change education in schools in Nigeria. Also, we have developed an SOP on risk communication and community engagement with Nigeria Center of Disease Control and Prevention, that is NCDC. Number 4, monitoring and evaluation. In this regard, we have successfully implemented the M&E project in Borno, Adamawa, and Yobe states, funded by the Global Partnership for Education, GPE, which is still ongoing. This achievement would not have been possible without the collaboration and support of relevant stakeholders, including UNICEF, Save the School Children International, and other development partners from Education in Emergency Working Group, Nigeria, that is NIEWGN. As we move forward, we recognize the importance of scaling educational innovations in emergency contexts. We will continue to work tirelessly to ensure that every child has access to quality education, even in the most challenging circumstances. I want to express our gratitude to our partners for their unwavering support and commitment to promoting education in emergency. Together, we can build a resilient education system that will empower children and communities to strive. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Hadia, for your presentation. So we'll have one more presentation before we go for lunch, so that by the time we come back from lunch, we'll just have the panel session and we'll be done for today. Thank you so much for your patience, and I'm sure it's been worth your while. Okay, so now we have a presentation by Dr. Chima. Yes, and he will be presenting on education innovations and the evidences of their success, education, accelerating education program, and girls-focused programs. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. God bless you. My name is Godwin. I'm representing my director, Dr. Uchenna Siliava, Director, Colleges of Education Department, Federal Minister of Education. She would have been here, but for other very important assignments. Without wasting time, because already we spent so much time, I want to just read a paper. But before I do that, I want to recognize, because I want to recognize our Honorable Minister of State for Education, represented by Dr. Ojano. I loved what she presented, all the data and everything. It was so massive, and there are a lot of things going on in education, especially under this present administration of the Honorable Minister, Dr. Alausa Ande. Dr. Alausa and the Honorable Minister of State, Professor Shuaibor Said Ahmed. They are doing a lot. And it is my desire that God will continue to grant them the enablement to make the necessary changes. The topic that I was asked to present by my director, to read her paper is on strengthening education through psychological support, psychosocial support for teachers and learners in the education sector. We know what psychosocial support or issue means and what gave rise to such phenomenon. We know what has happened in the country, over how many years now, 10 years, talking about the insurgency, about the terrorism, about the invasion of the herdsmen in many villages, and this has no doubt affected the education of the children of Nigerians in those places. And for many years, there are some children that have not gone to school. Now, the ministry is looking at a way whereby these people could go to school. They have been affected by certain psychological conditions, and you cannot compare them with other children that have not experienced all those upheavals. So they need special care. They need special attention. And that is why there is need to look into this area. What has given this area rise is because of what is happening. Otherwise, earlier before now, all these things were built into guidance and counseling. Many schools are only concentrating on career guidance, which courses you will do, which area are you going to deal with, that. But now, it has developed to another different thing entirely, that these children, if they happen to be in school, they will not be composed and they will not concentrate like other children that have not experienced the problems they have experienced. And that is why there is need for special development of the teachers and the children. The way you handle them is not the way you handle conventional children in any school. So there is need for special training. Now, what is what is psychological support? So psychosocial support. Think of psychosocial support as building a strong inner fortress for individuals, giving them the tools to handle tough times, bounce back from setbacks, and grow into resilient, positive people. Children that have experienced all those traumatic situations, they have seen where they are invaded and they see people killed. Sincerely, their psychological condition has been altered. Am I right? Yes, the way they look at this has altered. Any approach, any movement towards them will frighten them. It will seem as if what they have seen before we want to reoccur. So that is why there is need for special training. In a school setting, psychosocial support involves thoughtful programs that nurture mental health, build emotional strength, foster healthy relationship and help students and teachers adapt to life's ups and downs. It is about recognizing that learning thrives when minds and hearts are stable. Learning thrives when minds are stable, when people are happy. Do you know that even children from crisis homes don't concentrate in studies? They are affected. They will be thinking while they are in the class, you see them listening with absent-mindedness. They are thinking of what happened. Maybe they saw their parents quarreling or fighting. They will not be able to understand. So they need special care. And the teachers need special training. The need for psychosocial support in schools. Our schools, the very places where we shape our future, are currently navigating immense pressure. The need for psychosocial support is clear when we look at the daily realities faced by those within them. 1, high stress level among teachers. Our teachers often juggle huge responsibilities in environments that are stretched thin, all while facing intense pressure to deliver results. This can lead to exhaustion and emotional strain. You know, teachers that manage large class size, they are always stressed out. When they have large number of students, they need to maybe mark their homework, maybe during tests, and other things they are asked to do. It is a very big burden to them. Without solid backing, teachers can feel disheartened, take more time off, and find it harder to perform at their best. Studies focusing on Nigerian teachers reveal significant levels of work-related psychological distress, emphasizing the need for support systems. You know, we experienced that you discover that some teachers just absent themselves from schools. They are looking for a way to run away from the stress they experience. So it is part of this problem that we are talking about. Emotional behavioral challenges among learners, children and young people confront a range of issues, from bullying and family difficulties to poverty and displacement. These experiences can deeply affect their emotional state and behavior, impacting their ability to learn and connect with others. Untreated emotional struggles can show up as difficulty, concentrating behavioral issues, or even disengagement from school, hindering their academic journey and personal growth. Impact of global disruptions. What we are talking about as the causes of those psychosocial upheavals, those problems. These are the causes we are talking about. Now, impact of global disruptions. Crises like pandemic. We know what happened during the pandemic. You know, conflicts and economic instability create widespread trauma and anxiety. Children and teachers often carry the weight of these experiences into the classroom, affecting focus, engagement, and overall well-being. Such disruptions don't just interrupt learning, they can leave lasting emotional scars, making a supportive environment more crucial than ever. A rapid needs assessment in Northeast Nigeria by UNICEF heightened the profound psychosocial impact of conflict on children, stressing the necessity of tailored support in educational setting. So what we are talking about here, that because of all these experiences that are faced by both learners and teachers, there is need for special training for them. It's not enough sending any teacher to where internally displaced camps to maybe start running a school for the children there. No, the teachers need to be trained, knowing fully well that these children, something has gone through their mind
They don't see themselves, there are questions going on in their heart and they need answers. And it is only the teacher that is going to mitigate those problems and make them feel at home and adopt teaching methodology that will make them, feel, have a sense of belonging so that they can listen and learn. Components of effective psychosocial support in education. Effective psychosocial support isn't a one-size-fits-all solution. It's a holistic approach built on several key pillars. 1, safe and supportive environment. Creating spaces where everyone feels physically and emotionally secure, respected, and heard. This is the bedrock for all other support. Feeling safe. Wherever you want to begin to train those children or teach them something, that place must be safe. It's not a place where, while you are still teaching, there is, there is some kind of intimidation, or they hear that everyone should run away or they escape. Something like that shouldn't happen. It should be a place where you feel at home. That's what he's talking about. Life skill education, equipping students and teachers with practical skills like stress management, problem solving, communication, and emotional regulation, helping them navigate daily challenges. 3, referral system and access to specialized care, ensuring that those needing more intensive help, such as counseling or therapy, can easily and discreetly access professional services, teaching, training, and support, empowering educators with the knowledge and skills to identify and respond to psychosocial needs, while also providing them with their own support networks. Community and parental involvement, building strong partnership with families and the wider community, recognizing that a child's well-being extends beyond classroom. Recreational and creative activities using play, art, music, and sports as powerful tools for emotional expression, healing, and fostering social connection. What are we talking about? What are the things to be put in place that will make those children that have been displaced or affected by all these things? What are the things that we put in place to make them have a relaxed mood and environment to be able to learn? Because you can be teaching them, nothing is entering, because their psychological mind has been affected. They've been listening with absent-mindedness. So there are things that should be put in place that is going to help them. That is what we are talking. Benefits of integrating psychosocial support. When psychosocial support becomes a core part of education, the positive ripple effects are profound. We are talking of the benefits now. Improved academic outcomes. Students who feel emotionally safe and supported are better able to concentrate, learn, and achieve their full potential. Enhanced well-being for teachers and learners. Psychosocial support reduces stress, boosts resilience, and promotes a more positive and healthy school experience for everyone. Reduced behavioral problems, addressing underlying emotional needs, often leads to decrease in disruptive behaviors and an increase in positive social interaction. Increased school attendance and retention. A nurturing and supportive environment encourages students to stay in school and teachers to remain committed to their profession. Stronger school communities. Psychosocial support fosters a sense of belonging, empathy, and mutual support, transforming schools into vibrant, caring communities. Better crisis and emergency response. Schools with established psychosocial support framework are better equipped to respond to challenging situations like violence, natural disaster, or public health crisis, minimizing the emotional fallout, aligning with national education goals by nurturing healthy, resilient individuals. Psychosocial support directly supports national goals
for quality education, improved health, and overall human capital development. Emotional balanced students grow into productive, creative, and socially responsible citizens, contributing to peace building and stability. And this aspect of learning is, as I said earlier, is a new area that is being developed. Even in colleges of education curriculum, it's not there. I heard somebody from NCC stating that it is being developed. It is being, now that the curriculum is being reviewed, this psychosocial support for both teachers and learners is to be included. So even the commission is gathering information, like as this program is being held, this organization will do well to also write and make submissions in order for them to incorporate this in the curriculum of NCE, to make it a compulsory course in NCE. Because look, this crisis, at least it will reduce, but it may not be totally eradicated. And therefore, since it has come to stay as part of our, experiences, there is need for us to learn how to cope with it. And I believe that is part of why this program is being held. How do we reach out to those who have been displaced because of insurgency, terrorism, and one thing or the other, even a disaster, natural disaster. You see, if all these institutions are not developed now, and you keep them running, you will not meet the need because you don't even know what will happen tomorrow, even though we pray that nothing worse will happen to Nigeria. But there is need for us to get prepared. I know that is why we are doing all this. Challenges in implementing psychosocial support. While the benefits are clear, bringing psychosocial support to life in schools faces its own set of hurdles. One, stigma and lack of awareness. Mental health issues often carry a stigma, making it hard for individuals to seek help and communities to openly discuss these needs. Many still don't fully grasp what psychosocial support is or why it matters. Stigma. Do you know that there are some children, because of one weakness, one thing or the other, they don't associate with others? Yes, they don't, especially children from unstable families. You will see them, they don't associate, because children, they are not wise, they don't know how to talk. They can use what is happening in your family or in your life to talk to you, and it will restrain those children from socially communicating with others. So it's like a stigma. So that's what he's talking about. Limited resources. Schools, especially in resource-constrained environment, may struggle with insufficient funding, a shortage of trained personnel, and inadequate facilities to deliver effective psychosocial support. That is exactly some schools. So in fact, because this course is not being taught, it's just being incorporated in the curriculum, you may not get enough teachers that will handle this, that is going to handle all this. So that is why it's being included in the curriculum in order to develop enough teachers that will handle all these things. Teacher workload and training gaps. Teachers are already stretched thin, and without proper training and manageable workloads, integrating PSS can feel like an added burden. Cultural barriers, traditional beliefs or societal norms might sometimes clash with Western models, requiring culturally sensitive and adapted approaches. Inadequate policy framework. Without clear government policies and dedicated funding, implementing sustainable PSS programs across all schools can be difficult. So there is need for money to be able to, do this thing and achieve results. Now, recommendations, finally. To truly embed psychosocial support in our education system and unlock its full potential, we need concerted efforts. Prioritize, and we have, number one, we have to prioritize policy and funding. Government should establish clear national policies in PSS education and allocate sufficient sources for its integration and sustainability. Invest in teacher capacity. Teachers, even in the ministry, this is very big emphasis on educating teachers, training them in order to cope with all these situations. Foster community engagement, we have talked about it in the previous presentation of the role of communities in ensuring that all these displaced individuals are trained. Integrate PSS in curriculum. We have said earlier that this is being integrated now because the review of the curriculum for NCE in colleges of education is ongoing. So private organizations and individuals who can write and make suggestions, make inputs, they will consider it. That is what is happening. Strengthening referral networks, build strong connections between schools and local mental health services, ensuring seamless access to specialized care when needed, promote awareness and reduce stigma, launch public awareness campaigns to demystify mental health, encourage open conversation and normalize seeking support, embrace research and evaluation, continuously assess the effectiveness of PSS program to learn, adapt and improve interventions based on violence. Conclusion: psychological support isn't just a nice to have, it is a fundamental element for quality education, teacher well-being, and learner success. When we put PSS into practice effectively, it leads to safer and more welcoming school, healthier, more resilient mind, happier, more engaged teachers, better, more meaningful learning, stronger and more connected communities. Education system that genuinely embrace psychosocial support are far better equipped to not only survive but truly flourish, especially in our complex and ever-changing world. Investing in psychosocial support is a direct investment in the future of education itself. A healthy teacher teaches with more passion. A supported learner learns with more purpose. As we navigate the complexities of today's world, psychosocial support must be seen not as an extra, but as a core foundation for an education that is effective, embraces everyone, and lasts for generations. Thank you.